Okay, we are we are recording now. So maybe we just skip that one and I come back for the next meeting, because that one I should be able to get it down to the way I explain it to people when they ask me how this works. So I should get it down to that. And the stuff of saying, oh, if anything's changed and the weather has changed and all that, so I'll just leave it out. So if we go the next, Colleen's got a nice packet. Have you read the packet, Bill? Have you reviewed it?
No, I was out of town today. I just got back a little while ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
Look,
Colleen, I didn't pick your packet up. I don't
No,
believe.
I didn't, yeah.
Yeah,
no, didn't
I
see
got
it.
one. I picked one up last week, but not this week.
Well,
Because I did look at I looked at Petrus's design and I looked at McGinnis's design.
well, the first one is a building permits or regulation. It says a regular meeting of the Board of Health in 2011, the board took the following immediately. It says, prior to receiving an application to build for the expanded use of a dwelling or place of business, a perk test must be conducted showing that a suitable sized area exists for septic for the modified structure meets Title V standards. That's in Title V. I don't think that has to be a regulation for us. Title V says if you're going to increase the potential use of the business, the building, you have to go through and fix the septic system up to the current Title V. I don't see, Bill, that we need to have that at all.
So what date did what's the date on that
That's
regulation?
November 8th, 2011, and that was Mike Pandora, Lee, and me.
Okay, could you read the language again, please?
Yes, I can. It says, prior to receiving an application to build for the expanded use of a dwelling or place of business, a perk test must be conducted showing that a suitable sized area exists for septic for the modified structure and meets current Title V standards. That only says the perk test has to be done. The Title V says the system has to be upgraded to meet it.
Well, again, of course, if they're on a sewer, that's a moot point.
Right. But this isn't a regulation that the board needs, because there's already a more stringent one in Title V that covers this very thing. We should just throw this one away.
Yeah. I'm gonna grab my Title V at some point. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that is the language. Let me, yeah, go. Give me 1 second here. Hold on.
If you haven't read it, Bill, this packet, and Lee isn't here.
Lee's here.
Lee is
Yeah,
here.
I'm in. Yep.
Lee, have you had a chance to go through all these regulations that Colleen sent?
I reviewed the ones for last meeting, the ones online. Colleen, was it the same group that you sent online a while back?
Yes.
Yeah, I've looked at those, Dick. In fact, I can give me 1 second. I'll go on my computer and I can actually download those. Hold on 1 second here.
I wonder if that thing that we did with Mike Pandora those years ago was because of an issue. It had to be an issue of a particular site in
Could have
town.
been. It could have been
to bring
that.
that up.
Yeah, but it turns out that is the Title V says that if you're going to increase the potential use of the building, it has to meet the Title V standards for septic systems. This one is absolutely,
Yeah, that's in there anyway.
it's in there. In fact, the Title V regulation is more stringent than this one.
So that being said, we should obviously, I think where we're heading here is to adopt or just simply honor the Title V regulations, since
Right,
they're
just say,
tighter than ours.
Yeah, this one doesn't make our list that goes to the state. We don't need it, and it's.
Yep.
The next one we got to was the building permit regulation. This is also by you and Mike and me. And this one is really, I don't think it's a Title V regulation. It's a policy of the Board of Health. And what it says is building permits shall not be approved or authorized by any member of the Board of Health or its agent until the following items are complied with. Now, this is a building permit regulation, not a Title V regulation. And it's a policy of the board of signing it. And that one of the things it says is a lot plan shall accompany the building permit or disposal works construction permit showing the property to be served, boundary, dimension, area in square feet, location of the proposed house, the well, the septic tank, leach field, perk test, and test pit data. That's all for the design of a septic system. So when I look at this, it's nothing on Title V. This is the Board of Health signing a piece of paper. And I don't think this belongs in this group. This doesn't say there's anything more stringent. If you were to write this and say this is more stringent than Title V, Title V doesn't talk about the Board of Health signing building permits.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's another office's area of expertise and permission, not ours.
You certainly could have this as a policy of the Board of Health, which we've done. That is saying this is our policy, but it's not Title V. No, this is not going to work well, I don't think, without.
Dick, I've got them in front of me. Here's what I've got. Colleen, on the 28th of October, she sent, I'm going to read these. Regulations regarding septic systems, January 1, 1976. And then septic hauling regulations, 2011. Then septic regulations in addition to Title V, 5/6/1985. And then septic system inspections, February 18th, 1998. And then septic system leaching fields, April 25th, 1983. And then sanitary code Title V inspectors, 11/3/97. So let me know which one you're reviewing and I'll just click on it.
Okay. It may be to do it means you're going to have to start reading it right
No,
now.
I've read these before, Dick. I've read these before. A couple of months ago, I went through all of them.
Okay, the one I'm doing right now is building permits regulations, November 8th, 2011.
Okay, let me take a look. Hold on.
Yep, I have that copy as well.
Okay, here
Colleen
it
has
is.
got this one labeled sheet 3.
Yeah, hold on.
Yep.
Okay,
But
this is the
my
one.
feeling, Phil, is that this is a policy of the board that says we won't sign off on a building permit unless someone gives us this. And it's nothing to do with Title V. It just happens that it covers septic systems, but this is not a Title V change. If you were to write this and say, where would this fit in something that's more stringent than Title V? It doesn't. The Title V doesn't cover this at all.
Yeah, I've got it right here. It says at a regular meeting of the BOH, November 8, 2000. It's the one you just read, Pandora, yourself, and Lee. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's more administrative than anything.
That's what I think. It just doesn't belong it belongs as our policy, but it doesn't belong going to the state as a change in Title V.
I agree.
Lee, are you okay with that one too?
That makes perfect sense.
Okay, the next one I have is disposal works installers permit regulation. And that one is published May 1st, 1983.
Okay, let me find that one now. Okay, this says septic system leaching field regulation, April
No, this
25th.
one is disposal works installers permit regulation.
No, the one I have is septic system leaching field. It's the one that says you have to have 500 square feet of leach
Yeah,
pit.
that's the wrong one. You're not looking at that one.
Okay, let me go back. This is 1983.
Right.
Let's take a look.
That it was actually, it's interesting. That's what it says it was published, but it says approved and adopted November 8th, 2011. This is also by Mike, Lee, and me.
Colleen, do you know what day you sent that to me? Because I'm looking, I've got my emails open here.
Oh, no, I don't
Oh, well,
have that.
let's
I don't
let's
have that in
skip
front
that
of
one
me.
and we'll come
That's why
back.
I put them in the packet, so, yeah,
Let's-
I don't recall. I sent them a couple
Okay.
times.
So let's, Bill, when you get the packet, we're gonna come back to that. This is number 4. Page 4. The next one is page 5, and it's called installers / haulers compliance sign off. And it was November 8th, 2011.
Okay, I've got that one.
As far as I can see, in fact, it says the Board of Health voted at their meeting on November 8th, 2011 to follow Title V regulations. So if all we're doing is voting to follow the regulation, that's not a more stringent regulation. It just says we decided we're going to follow the rules. So I don't see that. It says that it is prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance, the disposal system installer and designer shall certify in writing on a form approved by the department that the system has been constructed in compliance with Title V. The
Now,
approved
what's the
design
date?
plans and all local.
What's the
That's
date on
right.
that, Dick?
That was November 11th, 2011.
See, I've got one
November 8th.
November. Yeah, I've got one November. The one I have November 8th, 2011. It's called hauling regulations.
That's a different one. So you don't have this one. This is number 5. So we can come back to that one when you've got them, Bill. But this one says, and it quotes Title V, and it says we're telling everybody we're going to follow Title V. But that's Title V. It's not a regulation that's more stringent. It just says we're going to follow the current law. But you will have to come back to that one then, Bill. Colleen's got this next one, excuse me, is number 6. It says items that need to be replaced in spite of acceptable Title V inspection report. That's ours. This is made on 8/1/23, 8/29/23, and 1/16/24. That one is the septic tank under 1,500 has to be replaced. The next one is that the water table, it says should be determined as compared with must be determined. Do you have this one, Bill?
Yeah, not to confuse things, Dick, but I found the previous one that you essentially adopted the state regulation on hauler compliance sign off.
This is the state regulation. It's not that's not something that's in addition to Title V, it's
That's
already
right,
there.
that's right. And that one's also dated November 8th, 2011.
Right. So Lee and Bill, you agree that if it's already part of Title V, it doesn't belong here because it's already part of Title V?
That's my opinion.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I
Okay,
agree.
So Colleen, that's not gonna go.
Okay,
So now we're left only with number 4 that we'll have to come back to. But this one is this one, maybe we're gonna have to come back to talk about, because the 3 things that this covers are the 1,500 gallon tank, the 3-foot water table separation, and the issue
Yeah.
with the nitrogen reduction system. And we backed off on the nitrogen system. However, that what we've been struggling a little bit with is what we're doing with the shallow wells in those conditions. We've had some, we've been testing, and we've been saying that the well's gonna have to be replaced at some time, but what I'd love to talk at, and not, I think maybe at this meeting, would be whether we really wanna say, if we've got one of these little lots, that we just tell people, we're not gonna let you fix your septic system unless you fix that shallow well. But tonight shouldn't be a time to do that, I don't think.
Yeah, that's going to be a fairly lengthy discussion, Dick. Let's table that one.
Okay, so I'm gonna move that off. Colleen, so that's number 6, moved off to the side. So we have
okay,
sheet 4 and sheet 6. The next one is Colleen's sheet 7, which is the big one, regulation regarding septic systems in the town of Granby, which may supersede the state minimum standards. January 1st, 1976.
Okay, I got
You-
that.
Okay. As I'm looking through this thing, that I'm wondering if, where you've got number 1, it says, besides those specified here, all other system particulars shall conform to the state minimums. I don't understand that. To me, that doesn't matter. It shouldn't even be there because that's the law. It says it has to do that. Then number 2 says a fee charged for disposal works, construction permits shall be $10 for repair. Number 3 is fee charged for new systems shall be $20. And I question whether we can, if we want, we can say something like fees will be charged for the installation or modification of septic systems, if we want to say that. But we shouldn't put $10 and $20 for sure.
Well, that
Right, we're
clearly
handicapped.
that clearly suggests it is 1976.
mhm,
So if we want to put something, it seems like you put a generic statement that says there's going to be a fee.
That's all you say, is you say, that's right. You don't give the fee schedule, you just say there will be a fee.
Right. And so we could put that says there'll be a fee for any repair or installation of a septic system.
Right.
The next it says the following may be waived by the Granby Board of Health on repair installation. That probably belongs at the very end. But the first one is no septic tank, leaching field, septic. Yeah, I'm just questioning whether you put in parentheses, put no system, and then parentheses, septic tank, leaching field, septic cesspool, privy, and it said maybe constructed within 100 feet of a well. Now, the only thing that's different on that one is the septic tank. The rest of those already already covers 100 feet. So in reality, it's only saying no septic tank should be within 100 feet of any well. The rest is already Title V. And then the question is, do we want that at all?
Well, again, there's certain instances where there's geometric constraints on lots due to pumping or other physical constraints where I think it is okay to permit the septic tank to be closer than 100 feet.
Well, we
Again, case
typically-
by case basis with proper engineering provisions to assure system performance.
Or do we just,
You gotta
we need-
remember, Dick, Title V by itself currently allows us to waive everything except 2 or 3 parameters. It's right in Title V.
right, but this one says 100 feet is what you're looking for. On new systems, I don't think we ever miss it on a new
No,
system.
not on new, but I mean repairs. I'm talking about
On
repairs.
repairs, all of these can be waived. There are,
Right, and
that's
that's what
what it-
this, yeah, and this paragraph set pertains to repairs.
no, this is for new.
Yeah, it
And it
says
says,
on
in fact,
repair
it-
installation, yeah.
But it says right above the lead on to this is the following may be waived by the Granby Board of Health on repair installation.
Right.
Got,
That just gives us the option on a case by case basis of waiving some of these things.
right. But the question is, since Title V already says it can't be within 100 feet, why do we duplicate it other than the septic tank? The septic tank says 50 feet on Title V, so that is a difference.
No, but Title V allows you to waive the well offset on a case by case basis with a variance.
Right. Right. But the question is, do you want this regulation at all, or do you cross it out and
Well,
let,
that's right. I think it's somewhat it's superfluous. It's essentially reinventing the wheel as current Title V is written.
well, it says if you don't want someone to put it within 50 feet, let's say you have a tank that's directly up gradient of a well,
Right.
and even if it's a shallow one, this thing, if you take this regulation out, the installer can say, look at Title V says that I can go within 50 feet and you guys can't do anything about it because it says I can do it because we don't have a rule that says it. Versus if you leave the rule, then you can waive it.
But I see what you're saying. So that gives us at least a bite of the apple on that particular situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's fine.
sure-
That's fine.
For sure, the leaching field, septic pit, cesspool, or privy don't belong on this line because it's already covered on Title V. This is 100 feet.
Right. Yeah, so cross leaching field, septic pit, cesspool, and privy, cross those, just leave the septic tank on. Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine.
The next one is no well may be installed within 100 feet. This is the opposite of that. That says a well can't be installed within 100 feet of those things. Now, Title V it probably doesn't hurt to have this here, but I don't think Title V deals with the placement of the well.
Actually, I think in the last revision, Dick, they did include that language, but I'm not sure of it and I'd have to research it. But why don't we just leave number 4 as it stands?
The next one is no system may be installed within, and system, we need to define, that's where I changed, you either, every time you're talking about a system, it needs to be put in septic tank, leach field, septic, that whole thing, or else you have to put a definition of system someplace, because the number 5 says no system may be installed within 100 feet of the mean high water line of any water course such as ponds, lakes, swamps, brooks, rivers, or open subsurface drains.
You know, we should have a definition set. We should have definitions, but that's something else that would take time to craft. But again, defining a system might not be a bad idea.
Well, that's why I'm saying, because it doesn't tell you what you're talking about.
Right.
And we have to be careful because this talks about an open or a subsurface drain. And we better understand that that's a pretty nasty thing that's put in there. Because if you look at an open land drain, that's a swale.
Right.
And I don't think we want that in there. And in some place, we've got it later on, it talks about footing drains and we really need to talk about that. I've had an issue, for instance, that says, let's say you're in 1 minute an inch soil and your SAS is 20 feet away from your building foundation and you had a footing drain. Your sewage is going right down into your sewage footing drain and going out wherever it's going. So you've got all this rule that says you won't be 100 foot to a brook, and then you've got a connection 20 feet away from it that shoots it right out to it.
That is possible.
There's further down in this, it talks about whether the footing drain is down gradient of the SAS. If it's up gradient of the SAS, then you don't have that kind of a problem. So my suggestion right now, we've used up our half hour.
Right.
My suggestion is at our next meeting, we started again 15 minutes early, but take as an assignment to really pick these things apart.
Dick, I suggest we concentrate on this particular document, the January 1, 1976 document. I think that's the most difficult document in the set. So I recommend we start with this and we finish this up next time.
I could support that. Lee, what do you think?
Okay, yeah, number 7 only, yeah.
Yeah,
Number
and
7.
And it's 13 minutes after the hour. So why don't we table this discussion and move on to regular business?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let me find so before we forget, minutes for the January 7th, I didn't have any changes to it for January 7th, 2025 meeting. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
That's good.
Okay. We've got Bob Steen is on board. I can just let me give the review of what I said for Bob's system. This is at lot 1, A16 Morgan Street. So to get us oriented, if you're going down Morgan Street from Pleasant Street, you've got a couple of Jimmy Tromke's new houses on the left, and then you've got an older house that's got a raised system on the left. This is across the street from that. There's frontage on Morgan Street, and then it opens up into 57 acres. There's woods that go between Morgan Street and the open field. This is towards the field side of the wood.
Yeah, there's a pine forest in there with a lot of white pines entering that property.
That's because you actually go into the edge of that,
That's
You go
right,
into the northern edge to get into this lot.
right. And you actually go up in elevation. It goes up about 5 feet in elevation there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is a complete system. It's a new 3-bedroom house. The fee is paid. The review is complete. It's a mainly wooded lot in this area. It's open in the back, but deep sand, 43-inch water table. There are wetlands way to the west and also to the southwest. That Stony Brook kind of comes in. It goes into the west, but you've got some, as you go past this lot, there's wetlands that go underneath the road. And, and this is away from that. It's a new 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank with an outlet filter. Got 3 36-foot by 3-foot wide by 1.5-foot effective sidewall trenches. 452 gallons a day provided versus 440 needed. Reserve areas between and adjacent to the trenches. Fill is required. He's got 5-foot water table separation. Ballast is not required. The septic tank in the SA has separation to the wells and wetlands, all above 100 feet. And what we need to discuss is a trench permit requirement, fill requirement. I'm concerned that the temporary benchmark is just a nail in a tree. And my feeling is that we need some kind of a written plan to identify that tree and the nail and to protect it so it doesn't get moved. But those are my thoughts on this particular system. What are Lee and Bill, what are you thinking?
My only comment, Dick, is have Bobby run that by conservation. It's got to come by conservation.
I could accept that.
Gentlemen, this is Bob Sheehan. And that would have to happen regardless for the building permit to go to conservation.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Bob. How are you?
So Bob,
Good.
I don't
How
know
are
if
you,
you got
Good.
that comment. I'm concerned with a nail in a tree as being the temporary benchmark that somehow to identify and make sure they don't cut the tree down and they don't move the nail
Sure.
and just some plan that says this is what we're going to do to protect that. And I think you've done that on another job recently too, Bob.
Yes. The property owner is the builder. And I have advised him of that. The tree is heavily flagged. He and I spent time out there. Okay, what trees are coming down? What trees are going to be saved? And he said, absolutely, this oak is going to be saved. It's been flagged heavy. He is aware. I will reiterate that that it can't be cut down.
Yeah, maybe go in and take another shot if you can, set your scope up and hit the crown of the road or something and swing it and say, okay, I've got a double check or something, some plan, Bob, that says
Sure.
this won't be lost.
You know what I would do, Dick? I'd have him take a couple of photographs of the nail in the tree so you know the height that the nail is in the tree and you have a good reference that way.
Okay. That's something, Bob,
Bill,
to make that happen.
Bill, to what you just said, that nail was set by me and it is exactly 12 inches above grade for that purpose, just to make sure that I knew where it was, at what elevation it was above the existing grade. So.
Okay, because I've seen over the years, Bob, again, not in this town, but I've seen over the years in other communities that some individuals will take the nail, move it down a foot, and gain a foot elevation that way.
I understand. That will not happen in this case. As well as, I don't know if the board noticed the note that I had on the plan. that the corners of the leaching facility, the corners of the house, and the well must be staked out prior to the start of any excavation, construction, and I have to be called and review everything prior to anything happening out there. I don't know who the installer for the septic system is. I want to make sure that no mistakes are made in the early stages of this. And
You can
the
just
benchmark,
write
of
that
course,
down. Bob, if you can just
It's on
write
the
that
plan.
down and say this is how it's gonna be done, and just give it to Colleen, and we'll put it in the file, and it will be done.
well, it's on the plan deck,
Okay,
so.
so are we
Okay.
approving this one, guys?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Lee? Okay, me too, Colleen.
Yep.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, the next one
Okay,
that we, next.
thank you, gentlemen.
appointment-
Have a good evening.
You
Thank
too,
you.
Bob.
Thank you.
The next one we have is actually Tim McGinnis is on. This one, the review is not complete. I didn't do the review. I've got a list of 15 or 14 items that weren't covered, but the important thing that I needed from the board, because without it, I can't work with Tim at doing the review, is as I look at this house, what Colleen has looked up for me, is that this house is on record as being a 3-bedroom house, and it's now a 5-bedroom house. Normally, going from a 3-bedroom to a 5-bedroom, according to Title V and our regulations as well, is that change would have required a conversion to a 5-bedroom Title V septic system. And that's not what's there. And what this change is doing is saying, let's bypass the Title V regulations and then let a repair go in, not following Title V regulations. So as a board, we need to make a decision of saying, do we make this comply? That just because someone may have made a change to a dwelling without complying with Title V, do we just let that go and say everybody ought to do that? It saves a bunch of money, or do we say, time is to make it right and do it the way it should have been done? My feeling is that's what you should do, but Bill and Lee, let's talk about it as a board.
So we obviously have no record of an application to expand this particular location from 3 to 5-bedroom.
Colleen looked it up and she did not find any.
no.
Okay, then I have to agree that it's time to repair the error from the past and bring it right where it should be in the light of day.
Bill, what is your thought?
Okay, I'm reading I found the regulation. It's 15.204. So 310 CMR 15.204. Increases in design flow to system. And it's worded kind of oddly. No person shall increase the actual or design flow to any cesspool or to any other system above the existing approved capacity, or change the type of establishment of a facility served by a cesspool unless the cesspool or system is upgraded first. Upgrades to accept increased design flow shall be performed in full compliance with the requirements applicable to new construction unless a variance is allowed pursuant to 310 CMR 15.414. For purposes of 310 CMR 15204, that's this paragraph, the approved design flow shall be the flow listed in the most recent disposal works construction permit documentation. So that's the way it's worded, Dick.
Well,
But
that would, when I look at that,
it's funny, they really emphasize the word cesspool.
yeah, but it keeps going back to system too,
Yeah.
because it always says or system.
Now, they could get a variance.
It does say that. They could get a variance. But that, we're not at that point yet.
Right, that's right.
Looking at the property, I would guess that Tim is gonna say, you know what? I can't fit this in, or I'm, you know, he's say, this is something that just doesn't fly here, but we haven't looked at that. So I do have some other issues with it. This is a type A, and there's another, we should talk about it because it's gonna affect what goes on. This is a class 1 soil. If you look at this soil, Tim has made an assumption that the water table is gonna have a gradient that's parallel to the current grade, which I'm not sure what the prior grade was, but my experience is that you're not gonna have, you know, a class 1 soil does not support a very steep water table gradient. So that's, without looking at the water table, the actual colors, I don't think you can make that assumption. The next is that if you look at the perk test, the bottom of the perk test was done at 40 inches and 39 inches is where they saw water. So that this perk test was done more than likely and really, really, maybe even below the water table. But for sure, if you look at the data that Tim has provided us, if you look at 12 inches to 9 inches, the water drops after a good honest soak. From what it looks like, there was a good honest shot at saturating the soil. That 3-inch drop only took 4 minutes from 12 to 9. But once it got down into that soil that's wetter, it slowed down to 10 inches to make the next 3-inch drop. So my feeling is this is definitely 2-minute soil. It's class 1 soil, sands, and the high water table gave a false reading, which then comes up and said, gee, we get rid of a foot of protection. Instead of designing it for 2 minutes, we design it for 3.3 minutes, when in reality, that's not what this soil is. So that, again, we can, I guess, Tim and I going through the reverse view process can talk about that. But the issue that I needed help from the board with is whether the standard was we're going to be talking about a Title V system. That's our goal right now. The current Title V system.
Now, Dick, who was the original designer?
I don't know. It could have been, I can't remember.
Tim, do you know who it was? You're muted, Tim. You gotta unmute.
I don't think I can unmute you, Tim.
Yeah, he's got to either push his space bar or click the little icon. Push your space bar on your computer, Tim.
No, you're still muted. And I
Okay, I
Yeah,
got it. I
I-
think I got it.
Oh, you got it, Tim,
Okay, now
okay.
we can hear you.
I have a Title V report. That's all I had was the original Title V report from 96. And that shows 3 trenches, 60 feet long, which is huge, I think, for a 3-bedroom house and a 2-minute per inch perk rate. You know,
Let me ask you a question, Tim.
Sure.
What's the separation, the inside separation from trench to trench? How many feet?
8. The
8 feet?
trenches- Right, the trenches themselves are 4 feet wide. And I did not put a reserve area in because there's a drainage easement down by the road on East Street. So I
Oh,
had.
no,
Bill, you're talking about the original.
I'm saying the
identified-
existing system,
The
Tim.
existing one, I don't know. It doesn't say. It just says that there's 60 feet long. There's 2 going in one direction and 1 going off, I don't know if it's north or south, but it's going off to the left. So there's 3 trenches.
I'm wondering if there's room to put the new trenches in the reserve area dictated by the original design.
So it looked to me, Bill, from Tim's drawing, it doesn't look like there's space.
It doesn't.
I'm guessing before this is done, gonna rip the existing trenches out and put them in that spot, because that's definitely the higher area.
Right.
But I think the answer here is we shouldn't design the system here. What we should be saying is the goal of this is to have a Title V system for a 5-bedroom house, current Title V, and let's see where that sends Tim. The other is that on my drive past there, looks to me like there's wetlands that come in someplace in the back of this house. It looks like it comes in. Bill, I don't know if you recall the wetlands zigzag through that whole property.
Yeah. I'll call up.
When I say property, I'm talking about that Hallahan Murphy.
Yeah, the whole,
subdivision.
yeah, I'm gonna call that up right now.
Are you talking about behind his house?
I mean, like the wetlands come up in there.
I did not see them. And I probably could have looked a little bit better, but isn't there a house there?
There's a house to the west, but it looked to me like the house to the west is maybe abutting it. It's hard to tell what it drops down. There's
Yeah.
a stream that goes to the west of the house to the west, and it looks like it wraps right around behind the house that's to the west, and then it comes right around this thing. So someone ought to at least look and see if that's.
It may be for that drainage easement. You know, there is a drainage easement there on East Street, so it might come down like the west boundary of this property and then like flow into that 20-foot drainage easement.
Got to look at it. That's all, to see if there is a wetland. So, but again, this is not the time to be going through a design review on something that we don't have a design yet to be talking about. But our process is that this gets done outside, and we will be here till 11 o'clock tonight doing this, and we won't have the right information.
So you want something that's in full compliance with Title V as a 5-bedroom house, plus the extra 110 for Granby. So 660.
See what we would say. I fully expect you to be backing into what Bill just talked about and says, holy mackerel, do you know what this does? And say, we need some kind of relief. This just can't be done, or whatever. That's what I expect to happen, Tim.
That's going to require, most likely that's going to require a pump system. And if we dig out what's there and fill that with Title V sand, we're talking about a very, very expensive system. Other than the 2-foot separation to the water table and the 40% reduction in the size of the leach field, everything else complies with Title V. I mean, if you were,
that's exactly what doesn't comply with Title V.
right, if it's a repair, it does. But if it's not a repair, it has to be new. It has to be new construction, and there's no 4-foot there's no 2-foot separation. So unless you you were willing to
We
give
don't give a 2-foot separation anyways,
ever?
never.
Oh,
So we don't do that. And then we look and we go back and say, if you're starting from 5-foot required, not 4-foot required, then you're still talking about
4,
some issue here.
yeah. All right,
So this can't be the time that we do this though. If we've got another appointment that's right behind you and
so I should go back and look at it and then come up with a design that's in full compliance with Title V. With a,
yeah, what I would certainly do rather than kill yourself, I would be roughing it, you know, as we all can do it and say, this is how rough what's going to happen. Is that really what you guys are going to be requiring, or are you going to be willing to do some variances? And as Bill pointed out, there's room in Title V for us to do something, but you have to start by saying this is the reason we want it.
That's right.
okay,
Yeah, come up with something reasonable and then see what variance makes the most sense and is still protective of the environment. That's all.
all right, I'll talk to the owner and maybe he'll agree to dig out what's there. And if we did that, you know, would you go with a 4-foot separation to the water table instead of the 5?
I get that. We can't answer that right now. You have to come up with what you think.
Well, I did
And,
get I did get a 3-minute per inch perk rate. So that,
Well, I can get a 3-minute print. Come on, Tim. If you go down and go to where the thing is saturated, you can slow it right down. That if you look at what it is up top, where you were above the water, it went like crazy. And you've even got a thing from the 1995 or with 96, whatever it is, that there's a perk right there that said it was 2 minutes an inch too.
that's true. And it said a water table was more than 4 feet.
Yeah, what could have happened, we've got the installer on that project actually got his license taken away for not following design. And
Okay.
so they stripped soils out and moved it and put systems in fill instead of sand. And so there's some history that there could have been a problem there.
Okay. You know what? I think I'll propose something with, you know, full compliance and a 4-foot separation to the water table, but still use the Elgin. Instead of getting the 40% reduction, we'll get the actual size that's required for stone and pipe.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
other thing
the Elgin will give you the most compact system for the flow rate. That's exactly right.
Right, that's what I want to keep, you know, if I can keep it small like that.
Yeah.
There
Now
is
the other
thing,
thing is
Tim,
the existing system, is it in fill? Is it in artificial fill?
I believe it's in sand.
If it's in Title V fill and then you hog out the old system, all you have to do is replace the fouled areas with Title V sand and you're back to square one. And if you use an Elgin, you get much more capacity
Right.
for a per lineal foot. So
Right.
you
The
might be
other
able to actually
thing-
fit it in the same footprint.
Yeah, the other thing, Tim, that you ought to think about is where I don't know if you heard me while you were muted, but with that perk rate, and I don't think you're going to see any significant water table gradient in that area. And where you thought you would, I think you won't. But going on the good part, the bad part is it didn't let you do the terrace system going down into the low area. The good part is that probably the area that the existing system is that's up in the air could in fact be 4 feet above the water table. We just don't know anything about it.
Right.
We're going to have to move on. We've got our next appointment is here. and we've got to move.
So will you give me something in writing, or do you want me to just talk to the owner and come up with something else?
Well, we just got what the board said. The board said the goal is to design a current Title V system for Granby's regulations.
Okay. All right, I appreciate
Okay?
it. Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Good night.
All right,
Okay,
good
thank
night.
you.
Okay, good night, Bill.
Now we've got Mike is here, not Mike Petras. Let me read what I've got for Mike. And so this one on the thing that I sent you guys is Mike Petras, 62 Truby Street. It's a repair, a complete system, 3-bedroom house. The fee is paid. The review is complete. This part of the lot is a cleared grassy area around the house. It's actually 63 acres with glacial till, a 51-inch water table. There's wetlands to the rear, to the south. Issues the till, the high water table. When Mike and I talked, and when we look at one of the holes, looks like the filling operation in where the system is proposed to go. At least I have questions on it as issues. The design is for a 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank with an outlet filter. Got a 20 by 40. Actually, the area that it's an issue I didn't talk about. The area that Mike's trying to work in is kind of a limited area, but he's got a 20 by 42-foot terrace Presby bed with 280 feet of pipe, vented. 440 gallons a day is provided versus 440 required. There's not a reserve area. Mike is asking for a 3-foot water table separation. Ballast is not required for the tank. The existing septic tank is going to be pumped, crushed, and filled. There is a siltation fence specified. There are variants requested for a 3-foot to 4-foot groundwater separation. Well, I got ballast twice, that it's not required. The building sewer is going to need to be raised. The garbage grinder that's in there has to be removed. The septic tank and the SAS separation to other wells and wetlands more than 100 feet. Items to be discussed is that the trench permit is required and the drawing has to be noted, although Mike's just sent out a drawing with it. Noted. The fill is required, and the drawing note requiring that the Board of Health inspection of the soil under the SAS, just to make sure that it's decent soil that's there, or if it's fill, or there's one of the notes says that the horizon down deep. The drawing note needed to require, as I said, that the deep holes under the SAS should be. The last one I said is the still required is that the Board of Health requires inspection of the strip. The next one is that deep holes be dug under the proposed SAS. We also need a cross section. It was difficult for me to tell that this was a terrace system, and Mike, in fact, has already added that view through it showing the terracing. That there's a plumbing permit required for the building tour change and the garbage grinder removal. That we typically would be saying that the septic system permit won't be issued. The design would be approved, but the permit not be issued until the garbage grinder is removed, and that the permit for a 3-foot versus 4-foot water table separation reduction. Now that just on the 3-foot versus 4-foot, what happens, we're on a Presby system, the code actually allows us to go to as low as a 2-foot separation. But the board, in this particular case, it's the difference between having a pump and not having a pump. If we grant the 3-foot, Mike can get a non-pump system in. The board, on several occasions in this situation, has granted the 3-foot from 4-foot separation. We have not granted anything lower than 3 feet. but we have granted the 3 foot, and we feel pretty certain that the 51-inch water table is a good one, that actually Lee and Mike looked at it, and then Bill went out to make sure that Granby had a person there that was qualified, licensed to do that. So that's where we are. Lee and Bill, what are your thoughts?
I'm fine, Dick. You verified all the elevations and all, and as long as you're good with the elevations that Mike submitted, again, the only thing that I saw in the field is a restrictive layer at 4.5 feet. Mike, you showed that on the plan set,
Yep.
and that's what we saw.
Lee, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm reading the print as you're and Bill are chatting. I don't see anything that was missed here at all.
We're gonna grant the 3 foot, so we're going through, Mike's already made it on the drawing that's around, that requiring the Board of Health inspect the strip. We've got requiring that a print permit was there.
Mhm.
He's gonna, Mike, I couldn't find where you required us to look at some deep holes under the proposed SAS, but we'll make it as part of that disapproval.
Yeah, and
That
I
we-
do have it as note 14 under design notes.
Okay.
It
The
does
other
say
is
to
that-
give 3-day notice to both offices. So,
Okay, you did say that you thought that the garbage grinder has been removed already, but we'll have to have a verification that's done. So
Yeah,
a plumbing permit for the change in the building sewer and the removal of the garbage disposal, and a verification that it's done before we actually grant this permit.
mhm. I know the
Um,
owner has contacted his plumber. I spoke to
Okay.
him, I want to say last Friday, and it wasn't done as of yet. So he did say that he would have them pull the permit.
Okay. So we've got that, we've granted the 3 foot to 4, I mean, the 4 foot to 3 foot variance. So, it looks like those are our lists, and so you're all set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's any questions, but yeah, I think we hit all your points that we discussed.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Good job, Mike.
Well, thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Okay, all the
You
best.
too.
Thank
Thank
you.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move to our other items. We've got, rather than go on to that, at 7:45, we've got Diane Percy as an agenda item. I don't see Diane here.
Yeah, I think that's her
I'm
number.
here. I'm here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Okay.
So what we have is, Colleen asked Diane if she would come in. In fact, Colleen asked to come in, and we've got a situation that the board is ordered that the property at 12 Ken Lane not be reoccupied until a Title V test. I'm calling it a Title V test, but it's a test be made to see if the system, the existing septic system, does comply with Title V, and that it was a condition that the property could not be reoccupied. And up till a short time ago, the test had not been done, but the property had not been occupied. And at this point, it appears that the property is occupied. And so we're in a position that it's a violation of this order. And Diane has asked to come in and talk to the board, and the board actually has to take some action. We've got, issues of complaints from a neighbor, but the state, the DEP is involved with this as well, and actually the DEP has contacted me and, would definitely feel that this is a Board of Health issue, not a DEP issue. And the board, the DEP has stated that they would much prefer that the board make sure that this does get addressed. So I think unless Bill or Lee, unless what I'm saying is not correct at this point, then we ought to, Diane asked to come and talk to us. We ought to let Diane speak.
Actually, Dick, before we do that, could you read the order, the official order that we issued to Diane? Could you read the text, or maybe Diane can read the text?
I cannot read it. I don't have it in front of me, Bill.
Okay, Diane, I trust you have that in front of you.
So, I'm not real sure. Again, of course, I'm not sure about all of this, but I'm not sure what prompted the order that you're
No,
talking
but
about.
before we get to that, ma'am, Colleen, you must have it. Could you read it, please? I want the exact language of this order.
Okay, let's see. June 21st, 2024, letter was sent to Miss Percy. Dear Miss Percy, on March 27th. Oh, I think that was when the order was. So wait a second. March 27th. Yeah, there were a few letters.
One of them's the official order. I want you to read that one, please.
Let me see the original. Let's see, March 27th. That was March 6th, I think, was the first letter that went. October. Let's see, dear Miss Percy, this was March 6th. Okay. The March 5th, 2024 Board of Health meeting, the board discussed the septic system at 12 Ken Lane. Upon observation of water seen at the property and water in the area, the septic system does not comply with the water table separation of Title V regulations. The board is requiring that no waste be put in the existing septic system at 12 Ken Lane and that miscellaneous workers must use sandy cans. The board is requiring the Title V inspection to be made of the septic system. The board is also requiring that the house not be occupied unless the Title V inspection indicates the system is in compliance, or in the event the septic system does not comply, system must be replaced with a Title V compliant system. There was a next
There's
letter.
a subsequent letter.
Now, hold
to
on,
that.
There
hold
was
on,
a
hold on, hold on,
subsequent
hold
Well,
letter.
Bill,
on.
hang on, because there's another one that says something different. Hang on.
Yeah, March 27th, the letter went, the board is issuing this letter to supersede the letter of March 6th. We are writing to inform you that the board believes that a sandy can or other form of sewage disposal is required during renovation or construction. The board believes the responsibility for ensuring that rests with the town building inspector. And then enclosed was the copy that went to the building inspector concerning that. 2, the board believes that your relocation of discharge from the sump pump from the back to the front significantly impacts the water table on your property. The board is requiring you continue to discharge all sump pumps to the front of the yard properly so that ultimately the water discharges into the catch basin on the street to the south of your house. 3, the board is requiring that the dwelling not be occupied until our previously mentioned PERC Title V test of your septic system is completed and reported back to the board. So this letter supersedes the other one.
Well, what
Okay.
that says.
Okay, hold on, please. Let's go back to the first letter, Colleen. Read the first 2 sentences, please.
This one supersedes that one, Phil.
Yeah, but, well, then you refer to it again, Dick. Colleen, read the first letter, please, the first 2 sentences.
At the March 5th, 2024 Board of Health meeting, the board discussed the septic system at 12 Ken Lane. Upon observation of water seen at the property and water in the area, the septic system does not comply with the water table separation.
Okay. All right. Again, I'm playing devil's advocate on this, Dick. Okay, pretend for a minute I'm not a member of the Board of Health. Okay, so I'm hearing that language. Obviously, we had a lot of flooding this spring. I think Dave's backyard was flooded. Percy's yard was flooded. I believe others on that side of Ken Lane were also flooded. So everyone's yard was flooded. So based on the fact that the yards were flooded, we essentially said, well, the yards are flooded, therefore the septic systems must be flooded. See, and I think that's kind of a stretch, Dick. I think that's a stretch assumption.
But stop, you have to stop. The board discussed this, and we said that is correct. What you're saying is correct. So that's why the second letter came and said, we can't possibly say, without knowing what's in the ground, we
That's
can't
right.
say
That's right.
that it failed. All we can say is that we think it's failed, or the data says it probably has failed, but we need to look. And it
Okay.
doesn't say that you can't even move in after you do the test. It just says you can't move into that property without doing the test. That's all it says.
Okay, so the whole point of doing the test essentially is to ascertain the water table. Is that right?
Mhm.
That's the main objective of doing this test, to determine the high seasonal water table.
I don't think so. I think that's the main. I agree with you, Bill.
Oh,
Main.
okay. All right.
I think
Well,
what you may find
okay.
out is that there's no
Okay.
septic tank there.
All right. So here's what I've done in the past couple of weeks. I reviewed a plan set for 10 Ken Lane, and that's to the south of the Percy property. I've also reviewed the plan set for Dave Gaspari's system. One system shows the high water table at 52 inches below grade. The one on the other side shows it at 56 inches below grade. And the sands are medium to coarse sands. So like you say, Dick, they don't support steep gradients. The water table is pretty
Kind of
consistent.
Bill, come on, you're an engineer. You're not telling us when the tests were done.
Well,
You weren't, and you're not talking about your soil.
Hold on now.
But you are a soil evaluator, Bill. Was there any
But
oxide
what I'm
shown in
saying,
any of those
Dick,
drawings?
please listen to me. I'm coming up with a solution for us. My thought is, since the water table is the big point of contention, instead of digging a deep hole and observing water at a single point in time, along with the modeling, which we're going to get to as well, why don't we put in a small diameter monitoring well? That way we can monitor the water table throughout the year, as well as obtain the modeling elevation during the installation of the monitoring well. And it would be a less expense for Mrs. Percy, and we'll have data going forward. It's a win-win.
It'd be a lot less expense and protect the environment, Bill, is for someone to stick a hole in the ground and tell us what you really also saw there. How deep did that, when those soils were looked at, where was the water table solved?
The water tables were higher. They were high. They were about 24 to 28 inches. They
Sure.
were higher. Oh,
So
yes.
now we know that you've got, according to Title V, You've got a system that's not doing anything to protect the
Well,
environment.
not
Yet you want to
necessarily,
look
Dick.
at it for another year.
Look, the other argument is the reliability of modeling in coarse grained soils is somewhat questionable. That's why I would rather have the real-time data on the water table than speculative data based on modeling in coarse grained soils. That's just my opinion.
Am I correct that you designed the system on that street?
Yes, the one at number 10, correct.
And when you designed that system, did you design it according to digging a hole and a pipe in the ground, or did you design it according to what Title V says?
No,
which
we,
is
we
design?
did we did a full test bit. A full test bit was done there.
And what did you design it to? The models, right?
Yes, we did. Yes, we
So
did.
100 feet away from this, you'd behave one way, and today you're saying that was all wrong.
Dick, I'm saying get real-time data on the water table. Again, the
We
modeling
had-
approach is a very conservative approach. Very
So-
conservative.
We saw the water on the surface.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that that's the water table, Dick. That is probably water infiltrating into the ground. Water infiltrating
Now,
into
are
the
we
ground
gonna,
is
are we
different than
gonna
the
go
water
for the
table.
last guy that just came in on Jennifer Lane and gonna say, you know what? You don't have to follow Title V here. We're not gonna do that anymore. We've got a different thing that the Granby Board of Health says that Title V is all wrong. And Phil Shaheen, who decided that he was gonna design something for a person next door, who put all this extra fill in, if it was wrong, you did it 100 feet away, you behaved one way, Bill. And we're
Dick,
talking about
but listen,
behaving.
I'm just telling you what standard practice is. Standard practice is designing for modeling. That is standard practice. But from a pragmatic point of view, I would like to see where the water table is right now. And if her system is
agree with you.
if her system is above the water table right now, I think we should let her operate her system until it fails.
But we're at the point right now, Bill, that we've got an owner that won't stick a shovel in the ground. We've got a reason at a Board of Health, we have reason to believe that this system isn't working right. And for some reason, I don't understand it, for some reason, we're not going and saying, this thing is, we need to, the Board of Health is saying in this case, we're not going to do something to protect the environment, and we do it, behave a different way in every other spot in town. Yet right now, we're saying we're not going to, we're just going to say, we don't care if that's not protecting the environment.
Dick, there's another very interesting point, which is kind of ironic, is earlier we were talking about footing drains and septic system offsets from footing drains. Think about it. This one's coarse sand and the footing drain is being pumped down the street into the city manhole.
I agree with you, Bill. And the fact that this sewage is going right into the water table, it's going straight down the sewage, the footing drain, and it's going right into the sewer without any filtration because it's in the water
That's
right
why
away.
it might be prudent to do a couple of water samples on that water being ejected into the storm drain there.
Prudent is to stick a hole in the ground, to go out there and stick a hole in the ground and see where the water is. That's what's prudent.
Again, whether we dig a 10-foot test pit or a 4-inch diameter monitoring well hole, one is as good to me as the other, Dick.
I can,
Well, the
without
other
looking
thing,
at
Bill,
modeling,
is that
But I like having the luxury of having long-term water sampling data by a monitoring well. You get the water table elevation and you can extract samples and test them for coliforms.
I could accept that if you went and dug a hole to see where that is, that you could come up with a plan. And in fact, when we changed it from saying you couldn't live there unless you fixed it and made it a Title V system, that first letter said that. And we as a board said, that's not fair. That we get back into exactly what you're talking about, saying you don't have any idea what's going on. And in fact, if you dug the hole and you found out that that pumping system that was put in to pump from the cellar into the street and that actually dropped the water table, that you may end up saying, you know what? We don't have to worry about being that this is a crisis. That when we do, now you do exactly what you're talking about and saying, you know, is this thing all done? Is that water table, that modeling, is that there before Mike Zabin put that drain in 45 years ago or 55 years ago? Is that where it came from? And by digging the hole and saying, yeah, we saw that, but that's now really kind of a relic model. It's not really appropriate. And we don't have a crisis here at all. We really have a 2-foot separation and we got some time to study it. That would make tons of sense.
That's right.
And
I agree.
that would make tons of sense. But it wouldn't deal with the fact that maybe that 75-year-old septic tank isn't even there anymore. You wouldn't know that. But at least what you said about being the water being the thing that we're really afraid of here, digging a hole would really show that. And if you went down and let's say you got in there and found out that the water table, unfortunately, was actually above the models and it's a foot high, and then we say, oh, we've got a really bad crisis now. But if what you're thinking is that you come out and find out that it's 4 or 5 feet in the ground, then we can have some time to say, let's look at this. We don't have a crisis. To me, that makes lots of sense. But what doesn't make sense to me is not digging that hole.
Well,
and
we have to
saying,
dig
let's
some
just-
sort of hole. Well, I
Yeah.
hope Mrs. Percy agrees to dig some sort of a hole for us.
If we did that, I certainly could back away and say, yep, we can stand up in front of anybody, in front of the state, in front of the neighbors and say, look, we've dug the hole, that we don't have a flooded system here. Now we have time to figure out what we really have that we're working on, but we don't have a crisis. If that's the case, then I certainly could support that. I don't know, Lee's sitting there. I know Lee has told us that he's got a conflict down there. So I'm assuming, Lee,
Well,
that you're
I
not
just-
talking because of that.
Well, no, I'm just reading the minutes from our meeting of March 12, 2024. And in paragraph 9, the discussion is that, Dick, you had a conversation with the owner of number 12, and there was a discussion that the water table was high, septic system function is questionable, and that everyone was in agreement that there would be a plan forwarded to fix the system. Shortly after that, at some point in time, I got a call from Alan Weiss to start to schedule something. And then maybe a month or so after that, maybe 2 months after that, I got a call from Alan Weiss telling me that the schedule had been canceled. And that's the last I heard of an attempt to explore the water table as well as the structure of what components are in the ground to help protect the environment. So I don't know why we thought we had a working agreement, which appears to have been, put on hold and now terminated.
Bill, are you at a point that if you had somebody dig even if you went in with an auger and got 4 feet or 5 feet, whatever you could get with an auger, it fans, so when an auger goes through, you're gonna see modeling, it's not like we're looking for till and we're not looking, we're in sand, it's all class 1
Yeah,
soil.
yeah. And what's going to happen, Dick, once you hit the actual water table, the sand's going to start collapsing. So you're not going to be able to advance the hole much below the actual water table.
So if that's and if that occurs at 6 feet down or 5 feet down or 1 foot down, if you did that, would I think that yeah, I agree with your original statement, Bill, that it's the water that we're worrying about. And if you've got a system that's actually underwater and not working, then that's the one that to me would be a problem. But I have no idea. I have an idea, but I don't know. What I don't have any idea about is whether what we did about ordering the water to be pumped to the front and having that pipe that the town put in, and whether the system, when I saw the water on the surface, I don't have an idea of whether that's a perched water table, and that if someone dug a hole down 3 feet, there wouldn't have been water under that. I don't have an idea of that.
All I know is the footing drain, the original footing drain modified to pump to the front of the house, in my opinion, will tend to lower the water table on that site. But having the original footing drain pumping to the rear of the yard just creates a circular flow, and it doesn't do anything for the water table on the site. But by pumping it down the street, as we've done, to discharge, that, in my opinion, will have a tendency to lower the water table on the site. I don't know by how much, by 6 inches, by a foot, by 2 inches, I have no clue, but it will have that
By 5
tendency.
feet, Phil. It could be by 5 feet with that class 1 soil, as I talked about on
Oh,
1
yes.
Jennifer Lane. I
Oh,
don't think it
yes.
can support a very steep water table gradient. So if you know that the bottom point is 5 feet down on the ground at the bottom of the foundation, that 5 feet could go back an awful long way to the east. You don't know where that
I
drops
agree.
down.
I agree 100%, Dick. I
So
agree
if you
100%.
look at that, but we're back to the same, well, it's not exactly the same point. We're to a point that someone's gotta say, where is that one? And Bill, if you said we're gonna dig a hole there and see where we called the model, we're gonna see where we called the water today and stick a pipe in to see where it continues to be. And then once we have the data, then you're gonna come out with something that says, you know what? It's flooded and it's in trouble and it's gotta be fixed right away because it's a terrible problem. Or you say, you know what? There's the old Article 11 would have let you put that in that system. They would have let you put the bottom of the SAS to 2 feet above the water table. you might find out, you say, this thing's functioning in accordance with Article 11, which was the rule many years ago. And the
Right.
board's got to talk about what it's going to do. But it's a big difference on whether we have a big health problem or no health problem or a little health problem.
Now here's the other bit of data that needs to be picked up is I'm trusting there's probably a cast iron sewer pipe leaving the rear of the Percy dwelling, I'm guessing. And it's probably so many inches below the foundation sill. So we can go on a quick assumption at, at a couple percent, and then say, forget about the fact that there's a D-box, but then assume that the system is at least a foot below where that pipe terminates. So that way, at least you can guesstimate without digging the system up where the likely bottom of the system is. You see, Dick?
I agree. Absolutely.
Just based on that. So again, that gives us that's non-invasive information that we can gather.
But we still are at the point that someone's got to drill or dig that hole.
Right, that's right.
So if we've got, and it doesn't matter who complains. It doesn't matter. What is we're looking at the environment. We're looking at a situation, and the board has said there's enough reason to believe that something serious could be happening that we need to dig that hole. Now that's a difference from what the board said about doing a Title V inspection. What it really, Bill, is what you said is that we need to know where well, you didn't say where the modeling, but you did say as we went through it, that modeling is the accepted design standard. But what we really need to know is where that water table is right now, and to get, we already know that it's class 1 soil. So that's not what we need to know. So what we need to know is where's the model and where's the water table, and that's it. And then from that, then the board
perfect
can
sense. And I hope
what
Dave,
are you thinking?
Yeah, I hope Dave and I hope Mrs. Percy are both good with that logic.
I
'cause it
don't
makes sense
agree
to
with
me.
it. This is what I'm gonna say. You guys made a decision from the very beginning when you sent that letter in March, what you were gonna do. Unfortunately, now Mr. Shaheen is telling you guys he wants to do something completely different. The pipes coming out of these houses are not cast iron. Mr. Fugler had to come because ours collapsed right behind the house. It was Orangeburg pipe. When our system was put in, it was done by Jeff Luce here. All the leach reels were failed because it was Orangeburg pipe. That system is 75 years old. I'm smelling it again.
That's
Dave,
a lie.
Dave, we're just not, Bill hasn't said something completely different.
He did.
What
You
we're looking at is
you got-
we're trying to determine that for sure an order that we had wasn't followed. That's for sure.
The order
what
not
Bill,
followed,
but
should
we
have been
are
enforced.
where we are, and what Bill is proposing is that a hole be dug to determine where the model is, the model in the soil is, and where the water table is. That's what, and Bill is saying from his standpoint, and me not as a guy with a PE stamp, Bill with a PE stamp, but certainly me as an engineer saying if I'm trying to assess the level of sensitivity or protection that we have from that septic system, that what Bill is proposing about looking at where the pipe comes out of the house, and it doesn't matter what it's made of. It's still, water is water, and it's gonna flow the way it's gonna flow. And we cannot, with one hole out there on that property, one hole in the backyard is gonna give us the information that we need to know what we have for an issue. If, from Diane, from your standpoint, Bill is offering something that's not a very expensive thing to do, but from a Board of Health standpoint, saying, no, you won't do that, is going to, we haven't voted on it, but I know what the board is gonna take for a stand. I know it. And I know that if the board didn't do it, we would end up receiving pressure at the minimum from the DEP, but the board can't, just cannot just turn our heads and say, we don't even want to care about whether this is causing a problem to the neighborhood and the environment. We can't do that. So from your standpoint, you're at a spot that if you're not gonna say, okay, I'll do that, and if you don't do that, the board's gonna have to, and I know when your answer comes back, we'll vote on what we're supposed to do, what we have to do.
Okay.
But and from David's standpoint, we have to look and say, the board also knows that it's not what David wants to have done right now, but that's also not, David's not on the board. What the board's job right now is to assess whether there's a problem, a health problem that's affecting you and your neighborhood and the environment, or whether it's not. And it needs to get done. And we have to do what's necessary to have it done. And hopefully we do it with you. And we all find out what's going on, and we work it out together, just like we managed to get that water out of your backyard and get it out and get it done. But go ahead.
Well, just okay. So first, let me thank you for doing that. I've been trying to get that done because I only, up until this year, had two options to pump the water out of my cellar, and one was to the backyard during the winter and the front yard in the summer or the warmer months. So this is a miracle. That being said, I have no intention of not dealing with this issue. The only thing that has been in my way is that the reason that it all started, and I understand completely, the reason isn't important. It happened. I have no control over lies and accusations made against me. Whatever Mr. Shaheen was saying that's the first time that I understood just exactly how my backyard is with the water table. I mean, I've lived, and I'm sure the people who lived here before me, I have lived with the high water table for years because I've had to pump it out of my basement. I have never had the kind of flooding that my neighbors have. I remember when my kids were little and Mr. and Mrs. Deck, it was their property, the kids would ice skate on it. And the ducks would be there in the summertime. So I want this taken care of. I'm willing to spend and do whatever the board feels is best. I just wanted some more information as to what the conditions were and the documentation. And I feel that I got that tonight. So
And what
I
we're
don't
looking,
know.
just,
stay whole, and that when you said that I didn't want to use a shovel, I don't imagine you meant for me to go out into my backyard and dig a hole with a shovel. That's not going to tell you anything, right? Are we clear on that?
yeah,
Me digging a hole?
what we really did, Diane, is that Bill and I doing a lot of the talking right now, and looking at two engineers talking about what's in the ground. What we were, the board and Bill and I talked about is having somebody, and it for right now, it's gonna have to be someone with a stamp that would be a soil evaluator. That would typically in our state, that typically would be a sanitarian, or it would be an engineer that, but from our standpoint, what Bill just offered, and Lee hasn't bought into it yet, but knowing the way the three of us think and look at system designs, what Bill is said that I support is that the water is the main thing that has a concern. And so what we're looking for is somebody that with a stamp, so a soil evaluator, like a sanitarian or professional engineer that you would hire, and that person would end up digging a hole. It's not necessarily, in this case, I don't know if he can dig it with an auger or not,
Yeah, Dick, I've got a 9-foot hand auger, bucket auger, which I've dug holes in sands like this before, and it actually is not that bad. Again, I don't know this exact situation, but they're welcome to borrow my equipment if they'd like to use it.
Oh, so what we're doing, Diane, is saying that you have to hire a person with that license of being a soil evaluator, and that person has to give us a report that says this is where they saw the rust in it when we talked about the modeling. That's the spot where the oxygen in the air hits the water in the soil and makes rust. And that's called modeling. So that person would say, this is where I saw that level, and continue digging and saying, this is where I saw the water. Bill suggests at the same time that person stick in a piece of hollow pipe with holes in it, so that in the future that we can look and see if the water table is coming up and down with a tape measure. Someone can stick a tape measure in there without anybody doing anything with digging. They just stick a hole, stick a pipe, tape down the hole. So what we're really looking for is a soil evaluator to tell us where they found the modeling and where they found the water table. And as Bill pointed out, that could be done without even, more than likely, without a machine. That could be done.
That's right. Yeah, you're not ripping the backyard up. It's a very simple process.
And you would need to do that somewhere near where the leach fields would be. You wouldn't do that next to your foundation. You'd have
Right.
to say, I'm going to do an attempt to be not in the leach field. You don't want to wreck it. That's what Bill was talking about. Don't do that. But somewhere out there where we think the leach field is, poke the hole and see what we have. And from that, we can decide whether a repair is an emergency repair, or whether there's no repair, or something in between. But it has to be done. We're at a spot that the problem could be a real problem. It definitely and I agree with Bill, definitely by pumping that water from your cellar into the street, the danger of having a flooded system, in my mind, is way reduced. But this has to be addressed, and it's not something that you say, well, I'm going to get to it next summer. It's something that we're in a violation of our order, and it's the potential of having a real problem exist. And for what would be really great for you to tell the board right now is, gee, I understand what you guys said. Now I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it right away. I know a guy that I was going to hire before. I'm going to go talk to him, and I'm going to ask him to get in touch with the board or do whatever. I would suggest that you have him get in touch with Bill or me, just to make sure that whoever you hire does the thing we're looking for. But you say, I'm going to have him do it as fast as he can do it, and we're going to get this done. That would be wonderful if you said that tonight, Diane.
Well, I would absolutely say that tonight. What I would like to ask is, that is it necessary that everything that I say to you is public? I'm tremendously unhappy that I have to listen to anything that 14 Ken Lane would say.
Unfortunately,
I mean,
you can say, Diane, you
way it is, Mr. Bombardier, and there's nothing I can do with it. I'm just expressing my distaste in a public way.
what you can do.
My
Yeah,
my business is all over town, apparently.
I don't think so. But in the case of us in the open meeting law, what it says is that because we're only a 3-member board, anytime 2 or more of us speak has to be at a public meeting. However, when you ask if everything you say has to be open to the public, if you speak to only Colleen, Colleen can talk to one of us individually. If you speak to any one of us individually, as long as what you say doesn't need to come back to the board for the other people to know, then it doesn't. Then it is not an open meeting law. For instance, if you want to call Bill up at his house tomorrow and talk to Bill about something and get Bill's critique on something or his feeling on something, as long as Bill doesn't have to be speaking as the Board of Health and doesn't have to say, hey guys, we want to make a decision here, then as long as that doesn't happen, then you're free to talk to Bill on a one-on-one basis, and it doesn't have to go anyplace. But as soon as you get into a spot that says, hey, Bill, we found this for water, what do you think? Or what is the board going to think? Then it has to come, it's open meeting law, says it's got to come before the town, before everybody.
That's fine. I just thought if I had a question, a specific question, I wouldn't have to wait until the board met. I could email Colleen or something, which I don't think I'll have any questions, because I believe the way that it was explained tonight and the option that Bill talked about, and I wrote some things down, but they, just are a lot of words right now. That I do understand the next step, and that I will take the next step, and then a report will come to you. Is that pretty much where we are?
We are, and what I suggest is that whoever you hire to do the work, that before they actually do the work, that they contact one of the members of the board so that what they do is what the board needs. Now, you don't have to come to the whole board to do that, because all three of us have heard what we're looking for, and Lee, Bill, and I understand what we're looking for. So you can talk to any of the three of us, or he can talk to, or she can talk to any of the three of us to make sure that that happens, and that we get that done. Before, as long as you're saying you're going to do that and address it, the board does have to take some action here. Bill and Lee, we're at a spot right now that we're still in violation of that order. My suggestion is that we do something that take another order that supersedes the one that's in effect right now. Mine would be that we have a next meeting scheduled on Colleen, when's our next meeting is
February 11th.
okay, February 11th. My suggestion is that we rescind the current order, and we allow Ms. Percy to get that information to the board no later than our next meeting, which would be February 11th. Bill and Lee, what do you think about that?
Dick, I've got a conflict on the 11th. Conservation meets that same night.
And we want to move it.
If you would, please.
Lee, what do you think about? You want to just move it one day?
Sure,
You want to move it to the 12th?
That's fine.
absolutely.
So that we just move the meeting to the 12th. Now let's talk about what we're doing with this order and with a superseding one.
Okay, I don't take it the wrong way. Anybody on this meeting, I'm concerned that we need a fairly rigid point. We need a calendar here. There's a lot of environmental concerns, a lot of neighborhood concerns, which the board cannot address and make it go away. But we can't, in my way of thinking, we cannot leave this open-ended. We don't even know if there's a component in the ground anymore. But be that as it may, I'm concerned that if we don't run scheduled out of fairness to all parties concerned, we need to move this thing forward rapidly, regardless of the outcome.
I support that. However, going back to what Bill, when I made the proposal that I just made, I looked at a couple things. The number one issue was that well, there's a couple different issues. One's the human issue too, that you've got someone that's living in a spot and then saying, by the time you actually would go about and you know, take people to court or housing court, whatever it is, and make Diane move, that it's just going to be a lot of work and time and won't accomplish very much anyways. But except spend a lot of money and effort. But from an environmental standpoint, I assess first that it's essentially one person living there without very much waste going into the ground. That's one issue. But by far, the major issue that I looked at was the impact or the suspected or anticipated impact of dropping that water table, saying that the problem, especially when I hear Bill's data that says before there was any pumping system, we're still talking about a 4.5-foot water table. That taking the 2 extra weeks to find out where we are is a very low risk in my mind, and especially with the low usage rate, and that it gives us a time to see what's going on. And from your standpoint, Lee, if we find out if that 2 weeks and in fact, if the thing comes out that says the system is flooded right now, it's awful, maybe the board has to have an emergency meeting. But short, I don't think that's what's going to happen. But short of that to go the 2 weeks and then from there make a decision that says this really has to, if it needs, now going back to what Bill's saying, we don't know what we're finding. But if you find out that it's something really terrible, then we have to act really fast. If we find out that it's not really terrible, then we may end up doing the other part of what Bill is saying, is let's look at it and see what it really is like. But at least at the end of 2 weeks, we know what our next step should be. And we should, in that case, I would absolutely support taking the appropriate action. If depending on what the severity of the situation is, then we have to take action that's the appropriate time frame to deal with that level of severity. That we find. That's what I was thinking. Lee and Bill, what are you thinking?
Well, can I play the devil's advocate? Can a engineering firm be contacted in the event that we need to do something in 14 or 15 days, so that the spirit that we're all sharing tonight of moving forward, protecting the environment, protecting the neighborhood, is in a forward direction, rather than 15, 20 days later saying, well, boy, now I got a problem. I got to hire somebody. That's going to take another 3 weeks. You know what I mean? And it's not my money. I get it. But I want to be preemptive in being prepared to go.
Well, if that's the case, getting Diane involved. What if we said that instead of just getting a soil evaluator, the soil evaluators do not necessarily have the license to design septic systems, so they're not necessarily stamped PEs or sanitarians. What if Diane agrees to hire a soil evaluator that's also a system designer. And that would comply with the need to more than likely she's going to end up with one of those guys anyway.
That's
But it
right.
would-
We had three of them on board tonight. We had Bobby Sheehan. We had Mike Petrus, who I'm sure could do it. Al Weiss could do this. Neil Jackson could do this. Any of these guys can do this.
So if Diane agreed to hire an evaluator that was also a designer, then it would get us into the spot that you're looking for, Lee.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is not my call. I'm just throwing it out to the board. But that being said, the reality of hiring one guy for one thing, one guy for another thing, is a good idea if the first guy finds what we need and it goes away. But if you hire somebody more qualified from the get-go, it's actually going to be cheaper instead of hiring two guys. And faster.
Diane, are you still here, Diane?
I am.
Are you thinking of hiring the same guy that you had talked to before?
I am, because I had told him that I was not canceling this, I was postponing it. So he knows that.
Well, Al Weiss is the perfect guy, Dick. He's a hydrogeologist, so he's the perfect guy to put a monitoring well in.
Yeah. So it sounds, Lee and Diane, that the path that Diane and Bill, it sounds like if Diane is in fact going to hire Alan, I know Alan's around, he's back from his trip. Usually he's pretty responsive. It sounds like we could get what Bill's looking for, what you're suggesting, Lee, about having a sense of urgency to get this thing done. Sounds like those pieces all fit together.
Yeah, I agree. I want the environment, the homeowner, the neighborhood, all to survive this thing and come out on top in a short period of time.
And that
Now going back,
would,
go ahead, Diane.
that would be my wish as well. And and maybe I need to just call somebody about this, but if, because of how this came about, and it ends up that it is the best scenario for me, and I guess I'll just put it that way. I hope that everyone agrees that not to pursue anything or look for something else that might not be there. I hope I haven't insulted anybody by saying that, but I'm hoping, because of how this came about, that there isn't the issue that we've all talked about tonight. And going forward and having the testing done, I'm hoping that that it turns out the best for me. Is that satisfactory?
That's certainly the case, and when we go further, when I was talking about with the town to try to get the board was talking to the town to try to get the water into that catch basin. We also looked at there is money that possibly the low interest loans if we end up going that way. But again, as Bill has pointed out, you don't know that anything's going to happen. So you need to find out the answer before, if there's a problem, before you look at ways to fix it, if there's a need to fix
That's
it.
correct.
So
That's correct.
let's not cross that at this point. And, but guys, Bill and Lee, we still have to, we have not voted as a board. Are we saying that we're going to extend that order and allow Diane till the next meeting to get us that information on the groundwater?
Yeah, so moved.
Lee, can you go along
Yes.
with that? And I can
Yes,
too.
I can.
Molly.
Okay,
So that's what we're doing.
Very good.
Okay. Diane, thank you. And Dave, thank you. And I know it turns out that in a case like this, probably no one gets everything that they thought they were gonna get. But we're, from a board standpoint, we are gonna make sure that we leave this thing in a spot that it's not a danger to the neighbors and the environment. That is going to get done, if that's what we need to do. But that's what it will be left then, in a good, safe condition. So, with that,
Is it possible for me to get, not necessarily your meeting notes, but something in writing that I can understand as to where, I mean, like I said, I took lots of notes. Just something that I can have in writing for my own, now I know
Of
what
course,
steps to take going forward and all of that.
do we we can give a quick note that Colleen could write
That would be great.
and say
I appreciate that.
to Diane Percy that on January 1st, I mean, January 28th, 2025, the board met and discussed the potential septic system issue at 12 Ken Lane. Among others, the board discussed failure to comply with the order to do a Title V septic system test prior to reoccupancy of the dwelling. And the relevance of the water table to potential soil contamination. The new paragraph. As a result of that discussion, the board voted one. The board voted to rescind the non-occupancy order issued on whatever, March, you'll have to look it up, Colleen, March something,
Yeah.
2024.
uh-huh,
2, the board determined that determining the high water table defined by soil modeling and actual water table were key to determining the severity of the potential determining the likelihood of potential contamination of soil by the septic system at 12 Penn Lane. 3, the board felt that the continued pumping of the footing drain at 12 Ken Lane to the catch basin in the street likely lowered the water table.
Dick, I don't even know if you need to put that in. That's,
Okay, we can cancel that.
yeah, I
We
don't, I
cannot
wouldn't
put-
put that in. I wouldn't put that
Okay,
in.
3, the board ordered with agreement from Miss Percy that Miss Percy would hire a sanitarian, a licensed sanitarian or PE to determine the level of soil modeling and actual water table in the area of the SAS at 12 Ken Lane.
Dick, and provisions for continued monitoring of water table in real time.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, then we'll add
Because I don't want any more false phone calls.
okay. So on this one, okay, we do that. As part of that one, number 3, it says the report from that soil professional will be issued to the Granby Board of Health no later than February 12th, 2025. As part of that, we'll say provisions at the time of the soil evaluation.
Yeah, a groundwater
Provision.
observation well.
Yeah, provisions will be made to allow ongoing measurement of the actual water table in the area of the test hole. Or after the data is received from the soil professional, the board and Ms. Percy will establish a timetable to remediate any problems that might be discovered regarding the septic system. If that's it, in regard,
Yep.
is that what it,
Wait, yeah, I prefer to have the phrase monitoring well, because again, the water
say, just-
table, the water table in the next 2 weeks might be at X. And then if we get a lot of snow and snow melt, the water table may go up in the next 2 months.
yeah,
So
what is, how did we write it? Colleen, could you read back that so we put it so it meets what Bill's looking for?
Provision will be made to allow ongoing measurement of the actual water table in the area of the test hole.
Yeah, I would put parentheses, monitoring well, close parentheses. you
Yeah,
know.
good parenthesis, yeah, just the way it's filled in.
Yeah, that way
So
Al
they-
Weiss, when Al sees it, he'll say, oh yeah, they want you to put in a monitoring well and not dig a hole with a backhoe. That's
Yeah, I
right.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Lee, are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Dick, there's a couple other technical details which I'm sure Al can handle, is that when they backfill the annulus of the monitoring well, they have to put a more or less impervious seal near the top to prevent surface water from just going right down there, you see? If water's gonna go down there, it's gonna go through the surrounding soils and percolate in, but it's not gonna short circuit just going in through the annulus around the monitoring.
So
they
we'll
gotta
have
be-
to talk, that's why
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
important for Alan to,
Yeah, Al knows how to do
Oh.
this. He knows how to do this.
okay. Diane, are you all set now?
I'm all set, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
Diane, thank you. David, thank
Hey,
you.
Dave, thank you,
Glad to
guys.
help you guys.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
We're gonna get
Lord.
through this.
Thank you all. Take care.
Welcome.
Good night.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Now let's go through the rest of our meeting. I've got, it's getting late, so let's see if we can go through this. I've got the wrong pile of stuff here. Okay, the first item I have is Colleen has 2 time sheets. Got January 11th, 2025 is 70 hours, the normal 70 hours, and then the same is true for January 25th, 2025. Are we okay with both of those?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
good.
I am. Next one, payments to the treasurer from the Board of Health totaling $2,020. Of that, 1,360 is Board of Health permits, 560 Board of Health licenses, $100 Board of Health fees, and that comes to the total. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Me too, Colleen, that's good.
Okay.
The next one is, I'm hoping that this stuff is in order. Looks like it's, oh, it's up, okay, this one is from the last meeting, it's Mad Eat, John Classic, 107 Carver Street, it's mobile food service. We said last time that he didn't have base of operations. He does have a note from Paramount Pizza and that says he can work there. It does not say that Paramount Pizza is in fact a licensed place. The other is that he says that there are no toilets for his workers. Didn't say he's gonna use toilets for the place that he's not or anything. It just says no toilet.
He's on the meeting, John.
Oh, can I talk? Yes, how you doing?
How are you?
Sorry, my camera's messed up. Can you hear me?
Yep, yep.
I can.
Good, good. This is a mobile food truck.
Right. So the two questions I had is Paramount Pizza, does it have a license to do business? It doesn't, it could be another mobile food truck for all I know. I just don't know.
No, the address is right there. It's a established business.
Do you guys, Bill and Lee, do you know that
It's been there
does
for
it
20
exist?
years.
That's all.
What's the name of the food truck, John?
No, it's not. That's what
Yes,
John
yes,
has
but
done for last week. We said he didn't have a fixed base of operation. He's got a letter that came from
It's
the owner
called
of
Mad
Paramount Pizza
Eats. It's a new truck
saying
this
that-
year. Yes,
that he's got permission to be basically using this whole operation. And so the question is, it's in Palmer. Does this place exist? And the guy doesn't say he has a license and I just don't know. I'm just asking the question. Lee and Bill, do you know,
hold on, I lost
I-
you there
I-
for a minute.
I'm completely lost on this. Nothing
I-
makes any sense.
I'm with you, Lee. I'm exactly with you on this one.
Well, number
We've
one,
got
all
a
the,
food
can I say some, all the food that's gonna be served is gonna be prepped on my truck. I really don't even need a commissary. So I got one in case there's a large event. It says right on your application, I clicked off the check mark that says food's gonna be prepared on the truck. I'm serving hamburgers, hot dogs. I have an oven, I can serve meatballs. I don't need a commissary. But I guess your new law says you need a commissary. So how does that make sense?
well, it makes sense because
Are you working with us or telling us that we're stupid?
John, here's the question.
That's your
You have
application.
You have refrigeration on this truck, correct?
We gotta give her that pen. Oh, no, she needs it.
I do, yes, it's a fully loaded, yes, 26-foot truck.
Dick, I recommend we have Lynn do an inspection of the truck. That's all. Pretty simple.
further,
Fine.
Yeah, every
we can,
town that I've been to so far has seen the truck. There's no issues with the truck. It's not a homemade truck. It's got everything right on it.
Okay. So
Sink.
have Lynn
Hot
do the
water.
inspection. That's all.
what you feel, Lee, too, have Lynn do it? And let her
Sure.
okay it if it's good?
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Did we resolve what the base of operations is or not?
Currently, Bill, the reason that we have that is that a base of operation is, because what if he's parked in his garage and the place that he keeps his hamburgers is in a cooler that sits there until he goes out every week? That's the reason for doing this stuff.
Okay,
And that if what I'm just wondering, does this place exist? Does Paramount Pizza exist? I don't know that. And the note we got doesn't say, it doesn't say, gee, I'm a licensed guy in Palmer. It just says I'm Paramount Pizza. And that's what my question is.
Yeah, no, he's been there for 20 years, yes. There's actually 3
So-
restaurants, but the one up in Palmer is the one I'll be running out of, if I need it.
And what do we do when, on these food trucks? Don't they usually go someplace that they tell us that they have? I know the ones that go out to the White House tells us they use the White House toilet. This guy is saying, I don't need toilets. Why people don't use toilets? Well, when you don't use toilets, you go behind the post that's right next to where this is parked.
Yeah, it's only at fairs that we go and there's toilets there, so.
So that's the thing that when you fill out the application, that's what you're supposed to tell us. That in this particular case, you said you're going to go to the Charter Day, and absolutely they have toilets at Charter Day.
Yes, that's what I put on the application, yeah.
So,
And
so is
that's
that
really
what we
only
said?
event, I'm sorry. That's the
Is
only
that
event
what-
that I'm gonna do with Granby is Charter Days, yes.
Charter
So,
Day's
guys,
canceled.
Question, John. So the Granby Charter Day is the only venue in our town that you'll be working?
Yes,
That's it. Charter Day only.
that's it. I'm going to Belchertown, Ludlow, different towns, different events. Brimfield. But I have to go to every Board of Health, but I don't have to usually go to a meeting. I just walk in and fill out the application, pay the fee, and they just look at the truck.
I guess, Dick, typically if he shows up at Charter Day, Lynn would do the inspection at the beginning of Charter Day typically, right?
happens is that these things are set up now that we don't do a one-day thing. We do the whole year so that they can, if he
Oh.
moves the White House or if he moves that you end up that it's a one-year license.
Okay, well, I guess the first step is to have Lynn do an inspection and
Yeah,
then we'll
so
go
we
from
do
there.
that, and
That's the
that's the
first
way we
step.
normally do it, and
Yeah.
so that's the way
Sure.
we're doing it, Colleen.
So
Next
it's,
one.
Okay.
it's approved subject to Lynn's inspection.
Yeah,
Yes, okay.
All right, guys, thank you.
okay, good night.
Thank you.
Next
Bye.
one is
Good night.
the food establishment renewal for Granby American Legion. Another one for Linda Inspect. Is that how we approve this one? So we always,
Yes, Lynn will have to inspect, right?
Lee and Bill, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Yes, thank you.
I am too, Colleen.
Okay. There was a residential kitchen one. Did you get that one, Dick?
Did I must have skipped that one.
Wickedly Wild, yeah.
I had it. It came up with, you're right. Wickedly Wild Gourmet Sauce, that's a residential kitchen, a renewal. That on 96 Ferry Hill Road. Is this another one we approve it with Lynn inspecting?
She inspects that one also.
Yeah, that's
It's a
good.
renewal.
Yep.
Lee, are you set with it?
Yes, thank you.
I am too, Colleen, so
Okay.
that's approved.
Okay,
Next one is, in fact, I'm gonna give you a bunch of them. They're renewals. It is installer's permits for Gary's Construction, Gary Pasquini. Another installer's permit for complete septic system. Next one's a renewal, Gavoni Construction. Next one for renewal is Duwell Construction, Don Hess. Are we good with all of them?
Yeah, I'm good with those guys.
I am too, Colleen.
okay,
Next one is a renewal for a septic hauler and Jason LaFleur, a complete septic service. And that's also a renewal. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
I am too, Colleen.
okay.
The next one is a 51 South Street compliance. Neil Jackson is set up. Oh, it's right next door to, it's desolate. It's right next door to Bill. He's submitted an as-built with it that's got horizontal and vertical tie. Are we okay with that?
Yep, I'm recused on that one, Dick, of course.
I'm okay with it. Lee, are you set with it?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Okay. Next one is a lot 5B Chicopee Street, and that is on a 60 Chicopee Street. Oh, that one is it's from Bobby Stan. He's got horizontal and vertical ties on that one. Lee, are we set with that one? I think that's almost all the way out to 202.
Oh, Jason Smeagol,
Yeah,
I think, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I was out there a couple of weeks ago. Yep.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Bill, are you?
Yes.
Okay, the next one is renewal of Granby Motel for a motel license. Are we okay with that one?
I guess so. Yeah.
I am. Bill, are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm curious, remember they had the fire a couple of years ago, Dick?
Yeah,
I guess they rebuilt the units.
I think they did.
Okay, so, and those units are occupied now?
And Lynn goes in there, so I guess it's okay.
Okay,
Actually, Colleen, does this one, do we give that subject to Lynn inspecting
Yes.
that one? What do you think?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, the next one is 190 Pleasant Street, Dave Tibby did it passes. That one was 1,500 gallon tank and more than 4 feet to water table. Are we okay with that one, Lee?
Yes.
Okay. Now the next one is complaint Taylor Street across from number 288 bags of trash. Has anybody looked at that?
First I've heard of it.
No, I've heard about it, Dick. It's down the street from Bob Farr's old house,
Yeah.
and it's in one of the farm fields. It's in one of the farm fields.
It's Red Fire Farm.
What is
And
it?
I don't know if
Red
it's
Fox?
compost. I don't know if it's compost or what it is, but
Oh, is this behind where the solar panel is? Behind where the barn fire was?
What? Maybe it is. I
it's
thought
up. It's up on the high point of Taylor Street,
I wonder if it was the same place.
across the street
that-
from across the street from Ray McKensley's last lot. I think it's Red Fire Farms property.
It is.
That's where he used to have waste
It is.
management putting his stuff, and he wouldn't rotate the stuff, and we had animals in there, and
Yeah, that's what they're complaining about, I believe. Yes.
It sounds like the
Can
same
someone at least-
scenario.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. I'll go down there and take
Okay.
a look at that.
okay. The next one, Pizza Palace, looking for a variance. A 2-compartment sink versus 3-compartment sink. Do we have any idea whether this one is the stuff that I read said that a long time ago they put in a high temperature dishwashing system to make it so they didn't need that. And there's a thought, the question I had is that in fact true? Does anybody know, is there a slop sink in there? And do we have everything except the 3-compartment sink? Is that, I don't know that. Lee and Bill?
Lynn would be the.
Oh,
Lynn would
yeah,
be the only one
Debbie
that-
Martini is here. Hi, Debbie.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I've never, ever in the 30 years have been ever on a Zoom. So Excuse me, I'm
Well,
a little
well,
nervous.
we're all pretty new to Zoom anyway, so join the crowd.
Thank
Good
you.
news is, the good news is, Debbie, you can be very sure that you didn't get the flu or you didn't get COVID from being here.
That's it for sure.
That's the important thing.
That is absolutely the truth right there. So I'm Debbie Martinez. I'm George's wife, owner of Pizza Palace, or kind of not the owners anymore. But I kind of just wanted to touch base with you on the situation with the sink and the mop sink. Since we reopened the store, the history, been there for years, rented it out, took it back in 95. I was with George and engaged to him before they even got rid of it the first time around. So when we re-entered the store, I think it was 95. At that time, because of the size, the limited space of the kitchen itself, in lieu of a 3-bay sink, we were allowed to do a 2-bay sink with a high temperature sanitizing dishwasher, which still stands there today. In fact, we replaced it once or twice already, but it reaches well over the minimum requirement of 180 degrees. So we still have the HCAAP standards down. It's a scrape, wash, sanitize. We have all that. We use the chemicals that are diluted with dipstick. So after 25 years, we've been getting along quite great. And every year with our health inspection that we have, which seems to be always December or January, we've been able to keep reestablishing with a house, a certificate for food service. Even though we've been constantly scored down for that. And coming to find out, Lynn, who had come in a couple weeks ago, she did go ahead and issue a food establishment license and gave it to the future owner, which is taken over officially February 1st, and we paid our due. So let's put this way, there's probably 2 health licenses overlapping between our family, George, and the new owner. But I guess I just don't want there to be problems for the new owner in the future. And Lynn said, well, there's probably a variance. And I'm like, well, after 25 years, trying to remember, with the few health inspectors that we had, I recall there was a variance because it was found that a potential to be a health hazard with what we had going on in the restaurant as far as a 2-bay with a high temperature sanding. It was found, I guess, by the regulatory authority, if I recall, at that time, that it was not a risk, a worry of a risk with how we did the dishes, obviously. So because of
Say it was equivalent.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about, the step system. So
How about the slop thing? Debbie, do you have, where are you putting the stuff that you wash the floor with?
okay, the mop sink, that situation there, I told Lynn, and she said that should be fine. But what we've been doing is, because we're not using a hazardous chemicals in the mop water, we are using diluted bleach, which is basically the same what you're using to sanitize dishes, etc., is what we use in the mop. We take a 5-gallon bucket, fill it up. It is poured into the mop bucket, diluted with the bleach that we have when we test it, ppms. Once we're done, and prior to doing it, obviously we sweep and everything, so we're not getting a lot of stuff going into the mop bucket. It is then brought into the bathroom. There is plastic that is put around the facility there. It is poured into the toilet, not touching the toilet because we put a barrier. And it is rinsed again with a bucket of water in there. So, but that was the key there, is to find out, can we put it down the sink? And after years back of doing investigating and knowing that the sewer water is going down a sanitary sewer system, and it's not harsh chemicals, it's highly diluted, and there are not, I guess I want to say, big items or anything of that, just if anything minute to hardly any crumbs going down, because the surface space of our kitchen is quite small. And supposedly commercial bathrooms, I guess the pipes are supposed to be larger than residential. Anyhow, 25 years we've been doing the same system, and I feel as though we've been doing quite a good job keeping the restaurant sanitary from every aspect. So I'm just hoping that we can continue after 25 years with the new owner, that we can continue serving the public safely as we have been. I mean, I'm thinking 25 years, history speaks for itself. And I'm hoping, I guess I wanted to say, I think Colleen mentioned grandfathered in, and that's what I thought we would have been. I'm assuming because we keep getting renewed. So we must be doing something right. It's just not the best situation, but that's all that works for us because we don't have the space on the floor. In fact, plumbing wise, we probably don't even have space because if you recall, DEP, we had to put a wonderfully huge UV sanitation system, and it cost us thousands of dollars with welding new pipes in the basement, um, just to ensure that the well water was safe, which I have no problem with because obviously I would want to make sure I'm drinking safe water aside from the public. So space wise,
Just for the record, it wasn't the DEP that caused you your problem. It was your well that caused you the problem
Oh,
because
yeah,
you
no,
were
I'm
going to
not
make
blaming
people sick.
DP. Yeah, I'm not blaming the
Well-
DP. I'm saying we had to put
Well-
one in per the DEP, which we did. We have obviously complied. So, but just saying that the room is not there. So, Richard, that's all I got for you. Hey, Colleen.
My thought is
Okay.
we ought to get Lynn involved with this, but you know, if you just ask me where I would be thinking, gee, that somebody that had 2-compartment sink and a good dishwasher would be in great shape compared to someone that had the 3-compartment sink and no dishwasher. However,
Again,
someone
Dick,
washing their floor and throwing the floor water into the toilet, that to me is a big problem.
How come?
right.
But I think we ought to talk to Lynn about it because maybe Lynn would say, that's not a problem at all. You don't understand. I don't know,
Yeah.
what do
You know,
what do you think?
the 3-compartment sink was obviously designed for restaurants without dishwashers because that's the way you wash the dishes. So again,
That's
you've
right.
got the 2-compartment sink, you got the high temp dishwasher, that resolves that issue completely. But like Dick says, I remember, of course, I'm dating myself too, but I did inspections when Harry was there, Debbie.
Oh, my father-in-law. Oh,
Yeah, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
I did personally, I did some inspections of your facility back in the
Oh.
mid-90s.
okay.
And I do recall that you did not have a slop sink then either. So
Yeah,
it's been an ongoing issue.
Yeah, just the problem is, Bill, is just that there is no space for it. It's so limited.
I realize it. I
Yeah.
know.
And we've done our best to keep the bathroom, the sanitary part of it. And after, doing a little research back when, and then telling Lynn and knowing that the water that we are dumping down is I guess the big key is harsh chemicals. And that's the thing that we are not using. We are using
Yeah,
what we
but
would
it's
use
still
in
up
the
to, it's what you're doing on the floor and
But
Really?
really,
What?
the harsh chemicals aren't the problem at your site because you're on the city sewer. That goes to the treatment plant. So it's a really
Right.
it's a non-issue. If you're in a
Oh,
septic system, it'd be an issue, but you're
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
the treatment plant. So that's
Yeah.
But
perfect.
there's another way to look at it and say, the normal people that were in a place for 50 years that put the money into their building and expanded and fixed their toilets and do all the things, and you haven't done that. And so now we're coming at a new owner and saying, these people didn't take care of the thing the way they were supposed to do. And now it's time with the new people that we don't want it to keep going the same as it always was.
Well,
So
you know what the
there's-
problem is too, is Richard, that if you keep getting renewed and I'm getting health inspectors that keep saying to me, it's fine, you probably have a variance. And then finally Lynn, after 25 years, is probably saying, well, you probably have a variance. And after speaking with Colleen and she couldn't find it and thinking we're grandfathered in, I'm not haven't been overly worried about that because it's been that many years and I'm still, I'm just getting I'm getting marked down on my health inspection, but I'd rather take that and spend 10, 15, $20,000 to expand on something I don't even have room to do. I can't imagine how that would even work. I just can't.
Well, that's because you're not the engineer to do it, but let's even put it further. I can't
Can we just
remember
check?
not having that building there. So I'm guessing it's been there for probably more than 50 years.
Oh
So
yeah.
let's say we went out to, let's go up to 100 years and you still haven't done anything. And we say, you don't understand that darn Board of Health. Way back 100 years ago, they said it was okay. And why are they complaining now? And you say, well, it's gone that, if your roof goes bad and stuff when you go a long, long time. And now we got to change a chance to say we got a new owner, and why don't we fix some of the things that should have been fixed? And
Well,
so that's where we go. But why don't we, Bill and Lee, what do you think we should, do you think it's worth just talking to Lynn and see what her experience is about this stuff?
oh, Rich, could I just say
Well,
one thing? I know you're
for
asking a question. I'm
experience,
sorry
but
to cut in,
also
but
knowing whether or not it's state code.
the one thing I did look all this up on the
that.
Massachusetts thing here, and I
State
did
code,
notice
and-
too,
and
that's
we
not a
don't have
new
choice.
build
We have to do it.
or renovations. If there was a renovations going on, that I can understand. But there isn't. He's keeping the mapping of the kitchen the same. I just wanted to put that out there too.
Is it, I mean, we may be painted into a corner. If the state says it has to be, then the state is calling the shot.
Yeah, well, I thought that I did read that, in fact, I have a little excerpt here. A regulatory authority may grant a variance by waiving the requirement of this code if, in their opinion, the regulatory authority feels that a health hazard will not result from this variance.
I
And
think
if
we
it's
should
granted,
talk.
yeah,
I'm not going to vote on it tonight. So I don't know, Lee and Bill, you may want to discuss it and vote on it, but I think I'm the wrong guy. That Lynn ought to be the person that says, this is the one that'll say, let's pass on the sink, on the tube thing, but the slop sink makes sense that's a really dirty thing. We should deal with this. Or she says, no, the whole city of Holyoke deals with this thing, and this is how they do it. And so I'm coming out of a spot of ignorance, and I need some assistance.
yeah, yeah.
Bill, what you and Lee could vote, 2-1 on this if you want.
So
I think
Debbie,
it's
you're
reasonable
you're looking at 105 CMR 590, correct?
I don't even recall. I don't even think I put it under here.
Yeah, that's a state sanitary code, chapter 10, minimum sanitation standards for food establishments. So this is your guiding document, 105 CMR 590. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, I think I saw something, it was 8/103/11, but let me tell you, after 25 years, I can't remember what I looked at. I've
Oh
been on
yeah,
this
well,
for
they may
25.
have modified it, of course.
We should also remember,
also,
though,
uh-huh,
that Harry's hasn't, Punta Palace, as I recall, doesn't have a file that's empty. I think we've got some things in that file that people have said, gee, that's not, I'm concerned going in there, that it doesn't seem very safe to me and clean to me. So this is not.
that's the first time having hearing something like that,
Well, then I
Richard.
may be really wrong. I'll say I'm sorry if I am, but the problem is that I also may be looking back long before your time. That's a bad
Probably,
thing.
probably,
That
but,
that may
um,
be. I
yeah.
certainly could be doing that.
Yeah, also Lynn did go ahead and issue a food license to the new owner. I don't know if I mentioned that. I just wanted to let you know because officially
I think
February
he had
1st.
any intent to shut you down or shut
Oh,
him
no, no,
down.
no,
I
no.
don't
Yeah,
think.
no. I know, Richard. I was just making sure I just let you know what's going on. And
Yeah.
February 1st, he's officially taken ownership of the, it's still gonna be Pizza Palace. And it feels kind of weird saying that, after all these years,
bet.
but being there every day, it's got a little bit, yeah.
I can remember, terrible, I can remember when Harry was in Holyoke, so
Really?
really and
Oh my
truly.
God,
I
really?
told you, I've been around a long
I
time.
didn't know that far back. Holy crap.
Really, a long time ago. A long time ago.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so that's why when I say I'm thinking back and it could be before your time, it really could be before your time.
Oh my gosh. I never thought. Jeez, that's something else, huh? Bet you got
Yeah.
some stories there.
Oh, I bet I read some stories.
Don't we want to hear them? Don't we?
Harry is certainly, it's interesting. Harry's language is always good enough when he's around his customers to be able to do business. When he's around the Board of Health, Harry has really bad trouble with English language. I don't know if you ever noticed that.
Oh, he gets really worked up and worried. Yeah.
He does.
I remember.
So you remember that too.
Oh my gosh, yes. Are you kidding me? I was around like 92, 88 before they got rid of the store that one time. I was there and then, yeah. Man, time flies. I can't believe how many years have gone by. Unreal.
So it sounds like what we're going to do. Let's talk to Lynn about it and figure out what's the right thing to do. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, Richard. I just got a little
that's fair.
nervous. I wasn't sure what to do. Like,
No worries.
all right, all right. I just don't want the new owner. I mean, he's such a nice young man. I just don't want him to have any problems. And because I remember I was his age when we tried out. He's just starting a family and stuff. So I just want things to go smooth for him, I was in my 20s too when I married George, I was a kid.
Yeah,
So,
we do too.
thank
So,
you.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So
We'll work.
we'll just sit back and let you guys take
Yeah.
over then. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Good night.
All right. Good night,
Okay.
everyone. Thank you.
Okay, nice to meet you. Bye
You
now.
too. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Are we okay with having May 17th for the hazardous waste day with South Hadley?
Sure.
Colleen, you should tell us
Yeah.
that. Are we okay with that?
Yes, it should be okay.
You know,
I'm okay
Dick, just,
with
Dick, a quick aside. I just went to that mass regulation and they refer to the US Public Service FDA Food Code 2013. So the document that controls all these food establishments is actually a federal document.
Ah.
And it's got 768 pages to it.
That's
So
probably
that
one of the things
also-
that the president just suspended.
Yeah, he probably rescinded this.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Does that document also, I haven't read it, of course, but I wonder if that touches on the explosion in food trucks.
But this is food establishments. Here it is here. They got the whole thing about washing sinks. Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, it used to be self-contained in the Mass Code, but now Massachusetts has sent this over to the federal document. So I'm guessing it's a little more in-depth than the old document. Wow, look at this.
Yeah.
Wow.
We still have a couple more things to do. Let's see if we can get them done. It's already 20:10.
Yeah.
So hazardous waste day, we said we're okay with, right?
Yes.
We didn't. Okay, now we did, Kelly.
Okay.
The next one is distribution of Board of Health member communication. I got, our attorney told us that, I think Colleen sent out my note, but he said that we're in violation, in his view, we're in violation when we even pass along a copy to each other of something that we sent out that Colleen can send stuff out. Colleen can send, Colleen can tell us what she talks to people about, other than Board of Health members. So Colleen can't even talk to Bill and tell me that Bill said this.
How can we
And-
run this board? How can we run a board this way?
But his feeling was that if we send out a letter, he specifically kind of stuff like if I talk to Tyler Avery and then send out a note to Colleen and copy you guys, and said, this is what I said to Tyler Taylor or Avery or their attorney, that I can't tell you that. That the only thing we can do is we can send the thing to Colleen, and Colleen can send it out to us the day of or the day before the meeting, and then say, we're going to discuss this at the meeting. He can say that something was going to be discussed at a meeting. We can each say to Colleen that we'd like something to be put on an agenda, but Colleen can't even tell anybody who put it on the agenda. So I don't know how we're gonna deal with it.
How can we run a board that way? This ties our hands, Dick. It's a catch-22. It ties our hands. It really does.
Colleen,
Well,
do you-
yeah, because we're walking everything blind. The meeting.
That's right.
Length
That's
of meeting
right.
is going to become exponentially larger than it is.
Well, it even gets into more of a problem. What if it's really important and we need to have an emergency meeting according to the client? Then that in itself could make a violation because we chose to have an emergency meeting. But I think he'd fight that. But Colleen, do you think you can dig out the open meeting law,
Mhm.
make a copy of it for us,
Yeah.
and let us really look at it? Because I think the open meeting law doesn't say what he thinks. I think the open meeting law says we can't discuss things in a way that would even remotely say we discussed it and it's going to tailor our decisions at a meeting, but that you're free to convey information. As long as it doesn't.
That was always my interpretation of the law. As long as a decision isn't made or a reasonable person would believe that a decision isn't being made, as long as it's conveying factual information and not opinions. And that's
Yeah.
important. Factual information, not opinions. But again, if
Well,
we're
of
having our
course.
hands tied like this, I don't know how we can operate.
For instance, let's say that Lynn did an inspection and she said, what do I do? So she calls you, Bill, and says, I went to Pizza Palace and I told them that they can't have that thing, or they have to have the thing.
Right.
And you say, you know, Lynn, you're right. They need to have the thing. And then you send out a note that says, or Lynn sends out a note, saying, I talked to Bill and he said that we're going to need that thing. And it goes out and it just, the rest of us hear it. Well, I guess what could happen is if we didn't agree, we could then go to Colleen and say, you know, Colleen, I don't agree with this. Let's have a meeting because we need to discuss that. So let's say I didn't agree with you, Bill. As long as I don't call you, if I call Colleen and say, you know, Colleen, I don't agree with this. Let's get together and meet. Or let's put it on the next agenda.
Okay,
I think it's
Dick, the other
important.
way we could do this is factual. I'm looking at it right now. It's in the code. 5203.13 service sink. I'll read take me a minute to read it. At least one service sink or curbed cleaning facility equipped with a floor drain shall be provided and conveniently located for the cleaning of mops or similar wet floor cleaning tools and for the disposal of mop water and similar liquid waste. B, toilets and urinals may not be used as a surface sink for the disposal of mop water and similar liquid
Yes,
waste.
that
There you
pretty well
go.
tells you that, right?
Yep, that's factual. It's right in the
Yeah,
code.
yeah. So, but if Colleen can get that back to us, because we're getting in a spot that the board, that each one of us, in fact, it's going to make it worse, because if you can't tell anybody what's going on, it's going to force you to make a decision on your own, that a decision needs to be made. And if it turns out that it's one that it needs the whole board, then it may not last for 2 weeks. Maybe it's something that's important enough that someone says, whoa, that's committed the board to something we shouldn't be committed to. We should have a meeting. But if you don't get a chance to know that it happened, you can't pull the trigger to stop it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me. So Colleen, if you could get that so we could at least read it.
Mhm,
And
I
then
will.
Bill, as you said, if we've got to go to somebody and say, come on, let's talk about this thing.
Yeah, I would talk to Jake Oliveira, talk to the state senator, see if they can introduce some sort of bill in Boston to give us a break, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And it's not an attempt to violate the open meeting law. It's an attempt to be able to run the
Community.
It could put us into a spot that we're forced to hire a health agent.
Right, that's right.
I wonder if that's
Or go to a 5-person board.
Yeah.
the goal. And
I don't know.
can we also find out what do we need to do to go into executive session?
Yeah, if Colleen can dig that out, because I used to have it in front of me. There are only like 5 things that you can do, and
Yeah,
and
they're very, very specific, very specific.
yeah, and we almost never do it. I think one of the
We never
times
get
when
there.
we had an employee that we were going to discipline, and that ended up in I don't know if you remember that, Lee. In fact,
Yeah.
no, you do remember it, because it involved you.
Oh, yeah. Like
It
yesterday.
involved you. That employee says, don't be saying that to me. I got more stuff on you than you can deal with. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I remember it. It's on that we can't talk about, since it was executive session. We can't talk about who it was, but it
Was that in the late 90s?
I don't know, but it was when you were here, Bill, and it was a thing about signing. It started off, the first round was starting off about signing on trips that were signing Lee's name on
Yeah.
stuff. And then,
Yeah.
Oh, someone signed Lee's name?
Yeah.
Oh,
and then it was there was some question about whether it was actually signed on some trips that weren't made, and then there were some, but it went, and we actually resolved stuff, and a reduction and whatever, and then finally it finally came into a head, and a lawyer came in and said, this is what happened, and it was to you that it was said, saying, don't you dare complain about me, because I've got more stuff on you than you want to hear about. And I say, whoa. I said,
that sounds like a threat.
when the lawyer heard that, the lawyer said, well, it's time to go home.
That's right.
Just lost that one.
So anyway, one more thing that I've got, and it's on the Dollar General basin repair. I finally got I guess we all got it. And I did send a note. Oh, maybe you didn't. I couldn't copy you in on my note. What happened is Tyler sent a thing to all of us saying the repairs that were being made at the Dollar General were at my request. And I sent back a thing to Tyler. He said, it's not my request. It's what you were suggesting. And I don't know what you're suggesting. You gave some very general suggestions, and even now, I don't know what you did. And so we sent back a thing to all of us saying what they actually did is they took that land drain that went at the side of the whatever the forebay, that non-leaching area. And if you look at the dimensions, the outfall of that basin is 2 feet higher than the bottom of the basin. So that basin's never ever going to drain. The people that designed it had sent a letter to us saying that basin was never a leaching basin. That was only for silt control. So that has a lower section that's 2 feet lower than the outfall. And what they did is they took that 4-inch land drain that went into the side of that basin and they ran it into the pipe that is the outfall from the forebay into the leaching basin. So it's never, all it's done, if water level is high in the second basin, it just comes back into the first one anyways, and it's below the overflow that goes into the street catch basin. So there's not much that's happened there. And that apparently they were going to look at installing an 8-inch overflow from the leaching basin into the catch basin. And the state said, no, we're going to have to get permission to do that. So all that has been done here is that 4-inch land drain has been moved out of the forebay and put into the leaching bay. So there's not much that's happened. So now the question is, I guess my feeling would be until we really get an understanding of what's happening and when it's happening, we ought to stay with the timetable that we have for their permit.
Yeah.
I think the objective is to have that upper basin drain in 72 hours like it's supposed to. So we'll
Right.
see if it drains in 72 hours to mitigate
Well,
mosquito formation.
if the bottom of it's 2 feet below if it doesn't reach, and the bottom of it's 2 feet higher than the
It's
outfall,
never going to drain. That's right. It's
unless it
still
evaporates.
possibly.
So, but it certainly seems like we ought to be involved with what's going on a lot more than we're being involved. So Bill, you didn't give the okay to do that, the changes?
What?
You weren't the guy that's the
Of
point
course
guy
not.
for the board.
Of course not.
And Lee, you weren't?
No, I mean, I drove
I'm-
by and saw some equipment there on my way.
Yeah, that's the
past
same thing I
town.
did. I went there one
Me
day
too.
and there's a backhoe there and there's no one around. The guy must have went to lunch
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was the
Yeah.
same thing.
So,
So it looks like
I mean.
no one knew what's going on. But
Well, are
please
they
be aware,
supposed to
it's not
pull-
me either. So,
No, it's not us. It's none of us.
okay.
So they must have pulled a permit to operate, and I'm guessing the permit would include the scope of work, but I really don't know. From
They
the
don't-
building inspector, or I don't know how that whole thing works.
Well, it's not, they didn't do all they did was a little drainage work. They didn't do any building work. They didn't do any septic system work.
Yep. So there's no DEP,
when I look at it, I
wetlands,
don't-
none of that stuff.
No.
I mean, but you know, those clearly cattails growing in there, and I mean, I don't want to go down that path, but it seems like they're doing what they want, how they want, when they want. It's
It's
I think
certainly,
the state might require them to hire a PE to put a plan together. It's possible.
it's possible. It's possible,
Yeah.
but they're certainly not they don't have us, originally, I don't say originally, let's say in the last 6 months, I told Tyler that if he got us involved, we could really try to grease the skids to try to be able to get stuff done. But he has to get us involved. And they, I put out those plans to put those basins underneath the ground, and that one, I said, gonna put those, they're gonna be filled with water all the time. They're not gonna help anything. They're just gonna be buried in the ground filled with water. That doesn't accomplish anything. And it just seems like they're reluctant to get us involved. But anyway, so at this point, what, Lee?
I guess my concern at a distance is that it took a long time to get them to do anything. And if we don't get in the loop, then whatever they do may be inadequate, and it could be 5 years before we can even try to get them back to do anything if they don't make it right at this point in time.
And so changing the permit schedule doesn't seem like a smart thing to me. It seems like they're worried about that, and we should keep them worried about it. And the lawyer told me, he says, we'll do anything you guys want, except once it's done, we want to make sure that it's over with. But if they're just doing this, they're doing work for the sake of doing work instead of fixing a problem.
Yeah, they're moving stuff from left to right, right to left, but there's no real change.
No. Okay.
Okay.
So we've got that. Colleen, for the next meeting, I'll do it for Wednesday instead of
Okay.
Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
As things go the way they're scheduled to go, I'm getting my knee done the Thursday before that. So that's a week from the day after tomorrow. The only thing we ought to let people know that I'm certainly not going to be doing septic design reviews over that weekend before the meeting. So if they've got anything coming up, that it really has to be in by this Friday. But I don't know how we tell anybody. I guess that's the only people we know. We've got Alan Weiss has got one.
Alan has two, I think.
Two.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know of anybody else.
Yeah, I don't either, unless I tell some of the other engineers that usually have stuff that
I guess
Yeah.
it would be
Neil.
only Neil maybe, huh?
maybe Neil.
Neil might have something over on Bachelor Street.
Mm-hmm.
He did some work to help out Bob Sheen on a Title V,
Mm-hmm.
which has gone into a design. I'm not sure what the time frame is.
I'll let them know. So they'd have to have it in
Yeah.
this Friday. Okay.
Yeah.
And they may not be concerned about it being the end of January, that they're going to even get the work done until March or April.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So hopefully this gets done this time.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, then
Okay.
I'll get, now we're gonna do 6:45 again next Wednesday, and we're gonna do just that one document. That's what we're gonna focus on.
Yeah, number 7, yeah.
So let's work on that one, okay?
This is a 3-hour and
Colleen, you're
15-minute meeting, Dick.
What?
We've met for 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's been fun, huh?
Yeah.
And wait
Well,
until
they-
they really arm wrestle us with the regulations on the open meeting laws. This will be a short meeting, Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we actually got the thing done at maybe Ken Lane.
That was good. It worked out good. That worked out
I
good.
hope
Thank
so.
you. It worked out fine.
Well,
You know, the nice thing
well-
about Kim, are we recording still?
yeah,
Mhm.
that was, well, it's time to shut off the recording. I'm gonna end, let's end the meeting. Let me see if so- actually, I can't even see this thing. Oh, here, I can, be sure it's not,